नमस्कार दोस्तों, जो हम लोग खालिस्तान कॉन्स्पिरेसी की सीरीज कर रहे हैं उसमें आज एक इम्पोर्टेंट चैप्टर हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं और वो ये है कि जब ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार जून के महीने में हो गया तो उसके बाद में जो सिख कम्युनिटी में जो रोष था उस रोष को प्रकट करने के लिए काफी हंगामा हुआ था। नमस्कार। और उसी हंगामे के परिणति जो है वो 31 अक्टूबर 1984 को इंदिरा जी के असैसिनेशन में के रूप में आई। अब इंदिरा जी का असैसिनेशन कैसे हुआ, कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल था, वो तो आप लोगों ने पढ़ लिया होगा, काफी कुछ पढ़ा होगा, लेकिन थोड़ा सा बता देता हूं कि जिस समय इंदिरा जी मॉर्निंग में अपने घर से सफदरजंग रोड से अपने ऑफिस 1 अकबर रोड को जा रही थी और उस समय एक उनको बीबीसी की डॉक्यूमेंट्री शूट करनी थी, उसके लिए वहां पर उनको जाना था। तो जब वो अपने सफदरजंग रोड के यहाँ से निकली और अकबर रोड की पहुंची तो गेट पे, सिक्योरिटी गेट पे जो सिक्योरिटी गार्ड थे उन लोगों ने ही इंदिरा जी के ऊपर गोलियां चला दी और इंदिरा जी मरी। इसके अलावा जितने भी उनके साथ में चलने वाले थे उनको किसी को ना तो गोली लगी ना कुछ हुआ। एक अलग बात है कि क्यों और दूसरा कोई क्यों नहीं मरा, सिर्फ इंदिरा जी क्यों मरी और बाकी लोग कैसे बच गए वो एक अलग कहानी है, उसके बारे में मैं जानना नहीं चाहता। लेकिन हम लोग जीबीएस सिद्धू साहब की खालिस्तान कॉन्स्पिरेसी की बुक को रेफर कर रहे हैं, तो आइए देखते हैं कि उन्होंने इस बारे में क्या बोला है और इंदिरा जी के असैसिनेशन के बाद में जो नंगा नाच दिल्ली में और कई जगह खेला गया उसके बारे में भी जानते हैं कि जीबीएस सिद्धू साहब के व्यूज क्या हैं। जीबीएस सिद्धू साहब रॉ में ऑफिसर थे और ये इसे हमने लोग पहले कवर किया है, ये सरदार स्वर्ण सिंह के दामाद थे। तो दादा शुरू करें?
जी सर। तो थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड सर ये भी बता दें कि पूरा प्लॉटेड था इंदिरा वाले का।
हाँ, वो तो 1978 के अप्रैल से जब वहां पर पंजाब में इलेक्शन हुए थे, इमरजेंसी के बाद में जब इलेक्शन हुए थे वहां पे पंजाब में अकाली दल की गवर्नमेंट आ गई थी, तो कांग्रेसी तो बिना पावर के रह नहीं सकते, तो उन लोगों ने प्लॉट किया था कि किसी भी तरीके से इन किन प्रकार जिसे बोलते हैं ना कि वहां से अकाली गवर्नमेंट को हटाना है। लेकिन वो ऑपरेशन फेज 1 था और जब अकाली गवर्नमेंट हट गई वहां से और 80 के इलेक्शन में जब इंदिरा जी वापस आ गई सेंटर में फिर से प्रधानमंत्री बन करके, तो इन लोगों ने ऑपरेशन 2 शुरू किया और इस ऑपरेशन को चालू करने के लिए और इसको फलीभूत करने के लिए उन्होंने एक मॉन्स्टर तैयार किया था, भस्मासुर जिसको बोलते हैं, और वो भस्मासुर था जनरल सिंह भिंडरवाला। तो भिंडरवाला को पहले उन्होंने यूज किया था पंजाब में जो अकाली गवर्नमेंट थी उसको हटाने के लिए। बाद में फिर ये हुआ कि चलो ठीक है, हिंदू सिख कम्युनिटी के बीच में डिवाइड कर देते हैं और उसमें भिंडरवाले साहब का थोड़ा यूज करेंगे। लेकिन अगर आप किसी एक मॉन्स्टर को कुछ ज्यादा ही पावर दे दोगे, जैसे शंकर भगवान ने भस्मासुर को दे दी थी, तो इसी तरीके से इंदिरा जी ने और जैल सिंह ने और जो भी है, राजीव गांधी, संजय गांधी, कमलनाथ, बंसीलाल, इन लोगों ने जो पावर दी थी वो भस्मासुर इनका बन गया था। इंदिरा जी ने कई बार अपनी प्राइवेट मीटिंग में बोला भी था कि अब तो मेरा ही शायद मर्डर होने वाला है। और उन्होंने
सिंह साहब, प्रेसिडेंट जैल सिंह भी
ऑपरेशन ब्लू स्टार के बाद में तो बिल्कुल ये हो गया था कि ये तो जाने वाली ही है। और सबसे बड़ी बात यह है इसमें कि संत जनरल सिंह मंडलवाले को जो पूरा जो पाल पोस के जो बड़ा किया था, जिस कुत्ते को उन्होंने रोटी खिलाई थी, उसका सबसे बड़ा जो कोई कल्प्रिट है वो हमारे जो भूतपूर्व राष्ट्रपति जैल सिंह थे वही थे। यहाँ तक कि वो राष्ट्रपति भवन में बैठ करके भी जनरल सिंह मंडलवाले को फोन ऑन कर दिया करते थे। कोई भी अगर इम्पोर्टेंट डिसीजन हुआ करता था उसको लीक भी कर दिया करते थे वो। तो हम लोगों का दुर्भाग्य ये है कि ऐसे देशद्रोही लोग जो है वो हमारे देश में राष्ट्रपति बने या ऐसे लोग हमारे यहाँ पर प्रधानमंत्री रहे। तो बिना किसी और डिले के, वैसे ही थोड़ा डिले हो गया है, करीब 10 बज रहे हैं, तो शुरू करते हैं इसको, देखते हैं क्या बोल रहे हैं ये।
जी सर।
हमारी इंदिरा जी का मर्डर हुआ, ये 12वां चैप्टर है इस किताब का, और इसके बाद में ये जो प्रोग्राम है,
Indira Gandhi's assassination and the Anti-Sikh pogrom. BBC and All India News broadcasts announced Bhindranwale's death in the morning of 7th of June 1984. When I reached, Sidhu Saab bol raha. When I reached office that morning, there was unusual excitement, and the young officers were huddled in small groups in some of the rooms. Obviously, they were discussing Operation Blue Star and the developments of the past 2 days. I realized that the Sikh employees of the department would have been appalled by the ferocity of army action and the damage to the Akal Takht and the Golden Temple complex. I took it upon myself to call all 4 Sikh section officers at the headquarters to my room. And the functioning of the government offices in India, including at the raw section officers as heads of various sections, occupy a crucial position. Having worked in different capacities in different sections, they come to know most of the staff members personally. All 4 section officers were old intelligence bureau hands who had come over to the raw when the department was created in 1968. All 4 had worked with me in the past, 3 of them very recently in 2 sensitive divisions where they were still working, and one in the personal branch when I joined the RAW in 1972. I told them that what had happened was unfortunate and should have been avoided at all costs. It was neither indicative of any Hindu-Sikh divide, nor was it motivated out of any genuine threat perception about the demand for Khalistan. In fact, these issues were deliberately created by some senior Congress leaders for electoral gains.
very
I then
important,
told-
very
very
important,
important.
very important,
This
very
sums up
important.
this sums up the whole issue. I then told them that the main purpose of my calling them to my room was to tell them, and through them the rest of the Sikh staff members, that what had happened should have no impact on the performance of their duties in the department. Our primary responsibility was towards the nation and the protection of its security interests. Religious affiliation was secondary, reminding them briefly of the sacrifices made by a number of Sikhs during India's independence struggle. I finally told them that within the next half hour, they should contact all Sikh staff members working in the department and inform them of any message which they did. The rest of the day was spent in routine work, which naturally proceeded at a comparatively slower pace. Duty to kill. In the evening, accompanied by my wife Iqbal, my son Gagan, and daughter Harmita, I visited Gurdwara Bangla Sahib to see if there was any impact of Operation Blue Star on the Sikhs there. While the Shabad Kirtan, recitation of sacred hymns was going on inside the main hall, small groups of Sikhs were standing outside, here and there, animatedly discussing the outcome of Operation Blue Star. A number of placards in Punjabi with inscriptions in red ink were also displayed prominently. Both the contents of the placards and the animated discussions were highly critical of the government, especially the Congress, which was being held directly responsible for what had happened at the Golden Temple complex. I still remember the contents of one of the placards displaced near the Langar entrance of the Gurdwara. It read, Singh Sahib, Bhai Amrik Singh, 8 Thara Singh, Ate hai na? Ate Thara Singh, Nu Taseh de ke Maria gaya hai. हूँ
इसके ब्राह्मणी नु मारन दा हर सिख का फर्ज बंदा है.
Sikh brethren, be informed that brothers Amrik Singh and Thara Singh were tortured to death. Now it becomes the duty of each Sikh to kill this Brahmani. The word Brahmani was used for Indira Gandhi with a derogatory prefix. Incidentally, there was no placard that mentioned the death of Bhindranwale, as some Sikhs still believed that Bhindranwale had escaped just before or during Operation Blue Star. Going by the contents of the placard mentioned above, several Sikhs also believed that Amrit Singh and Thara Singh, and by implication Bhindranwale, were captured alive and thereafter tortured to death. The next morning, I called on Director Raw, Gary Saxena, in his office and informed him of what I had seen and observed in Gurdwara Bangla Sahib complex, especially the contents of the placard. I told him that going even by elementary knowledge of Sikh history, there would be large number of Sikhs, especially from the rural areas, willing to risk their lives to avenge the damage caused to the Harmandir Sahib complex. Their target would be Indira Gandhi. Coming straight to the point, I said that in my assessment, there was a high probability of her being assassinated in the next 6 months, and it was the duty of the concerned security agencies to save her life at all costs. Gary asked me how, when, and where such an attempt would be made. Based on my experience of working with the Pradesh police, where I had supervised some election rallies addressed by Indira Gandhi, I said that soon after her speech at an election rally, she would normally go towards the ladies' enclosure located on the left side of the rostrum, where she would meet and speak with women and receive garlands from them. In the haste and confusion that followed, she would be exposed to elements that were beyond the limits prescribed by her security setup, thereby becoming an easy target. Tragically, it would be at an election rally that her son Rajiv Gandhi would be assassinated in a somewhat similar manner by a 17-year-old LTT suicide bomber on 21st of May 1991 at Sri Perambudur in Tamil Nadu. Having heard my assessment, Gary remarked that if such a thing happened there, would be large-scale killing of Sikhs in Delhi. It appeared the subject had been discussed the previous day at a high-level meeting, either at the Cabinet Secretariat or the PMO, where the likelihood of Indira Gandhi's assassination and its repercussions were also discussed. That is what they want, I said. When Gary asked me who they were, I said, obviously Pakistan and some Western countries where there's comparatively larger presence of Sikhs. As the implications of my remarks were rather obvious, no further discussion took place on the subject. It is, however, not known whether Gary's information about the large-scale killing of Sikhs in Delhi following Indira Gandhi's likely assassination was based on an intelligence input by the IB or was an observation by a perceptive officer who had attended the previous day's meeting of senior officers. Tomorrow may be too late. October 21st was a Sunday. I had accompanied my wife and 2 children to the Lady Hardinge Medical College campus adjacent to Connaught Place to meet my wife's eldest sister, Dr. Paramjit Panag. On our return journey, as we approached the crossing of Akbar Road and Sabdaganj Road, while turning towards Gymkhana Club, I saw 2 young policemen posted at the corner of 1 Akbar Road, part of the Prime Minister's part of the Prime Minister's official residential complex. Both were armed with Sten guns. One of them was a 5'8" stocky Sikh who appeared to be in his mid-20s with a closely trimmed beard. Seeing him posted there, I expressed my surprise to my wife as to why armed Sikh police security guards who were removed from duty at the PM's residence after Operation Blue Star had been redeployed. This is the surest and the easiest way of getting Mrs. Gandhi assassinated, I exclaimed in dismay. From the photographs that appeared in the newspaper later, I identified the young Sikh police constable I had seen as one of the 2 assassins, Satwant Singh. On reaching office the next morning, I wrote a small note by hand and addressed it to Gary Saxena. In it, I described precisely what I had observed the previous afternoon. In addition to writing that it was the surest and the easiest way of getting the PM killed, I specifically mentioned that all members of the Sikh VVIP security detail posted at the PM's residence must be removed at the earliest, for tomorrow may be too late.
दादा,
जी जी
ये RAW के जो ऑफिसर्स होते हैं, दे आर
जी जी
24 आवर ऑन ड्यूटी। हाँ, कहीं पर भी जाते
हाँ
हैं,
हाँ हाँ हाँ
ऑब्जर्वेशन हमेशा चलता रहता है।
IB also IB and RAW
यस,
both on 24 hours duty, and they hardly get leave because I have a relative in the IB who's an
यस,
assistant director now,
हाँ,
so he never gets leave. A detailed inquiry should be conducted to find out who had recommended or decided the recall and under what circumstances. Separately, I had asked my personal assistant, Sita Lakshmi, to prepare an envelope addressed to the director marked to be opened by addressee only. I then paused to consider the pros and cons of sending that note to Gary Successor. Keeping in view the rural background of the police constabulary, still nursing a tribal mentality, and for whom avenging the attack on the Golden Temple complex was a priority over any other consideration, I had no doubt that an armed person like Satwant Singh, singly or in collaboration with one or more Sikh policemen, would make an attempt to assassinate Indira Gandhi sooner rather than later. But I thought if such an attempt was made the same afternoon or within a day or two, there was every chance that whoever was instrumental in bringing back the Sikh policeman on duty would try to deflect attention towards me by falsely accusing me of being part of the conspiracy. ये भी सही बोल रहा सर. In the prevailing environment of the time, a Sikh could become an easy target of any such insinuation. I reminded myself of the well-known proverb, discretion is the better part of valor, and finally decided not to send the note to Gary. Therefore, when Sita
गुड
Lakshmi
गुड गुड
returned,
गुड गुड गुड, बहुत अच्छा, गुड से
therefore, Therefore, when Sita Lakshmi returned with the envelope, I told her to leave it with me. And as soon as she left the room, I shredded both the note and the envelope. Afterwards, of course, I felt remorse for not sending that note to the director. I did come to know through the departmental grapevine that Kao had also expressed his reservations about the recall of sea guards at the PM's residence. He had suggested that in case it was not possible to remove them, no two Sikh armed guards should be posted together on duty at the same time and at the same place. That was precisely what happened on the day Indira Gandhi was assassinated. On the plea he had an upset stomach, which may require him to visit the toilet often, Satwant Singh got his duty changed to the inner circle, where Byan Singh was already deployed. Intimation of danger. As mentioned in the preface, at the time I had a carpool arrangement with 4 other officers living in Satyamarg Chanakyapuri complex to commute to office. We would take turns in our cars and follow a shorter route, which ran alongside Safdarjung Airport, crossing over to Tughlaq Road via a loop connecting the INA bridge to that road. On 31st of October, it was SC Mishra's turn to drive us in his car. We heard the news of Indira Gandhi's assassination earlier that day while at office. She had been shot by Satwant Singh and Byan Singh at about 9:30 that morning. Around 5:15 p.m., on our way back from the office, passing the upscale residential area of Jor Bagh on our left, we were about to take the left turn from Lodi Road to Tughlaq Road towards the INA bridge when we noticed a smart-looking young man in his early 20s walking quickly from the side of the INA bridge. He was thin with sharp features, a wheatish complexion, and about 5 foot 10 inches in height. On seeing me in the front seat from a distance, he started running towards us and almost stood in front of our car to stop it. We asked the young man what the problem was. He warned us not to go towards the INA bridge as he was concerned about my safety. In his typical style, Amar Bhushan, who was sitting in the rear seat, said that in case we must go via the INA bridge only and that he would see who was going to touch Mr. Sidhu. When the young man persisted, I told Amar that we should heed his advice, thanking him for his concern about my personal safety. We took another route via Ashoka Hotel and reached home safely. At this time, Indira Gandhi's body was still at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and Rajiv Gandhi, who had returned from election tour of West Bengal at around 3 p.m., had not yet been administered the oath as Prime Minister. Some days later, I came to know about the reason for the young man's concern about my safety. At the very moment he had stopped a car, Arjun Das, who had a scooter and car repair workshop on the corner of Lakshmi Bai Nagar Market, adjacent to the R&A Bridge, and was an associate of Sanjay Gandhi and later of Rajiv Gandhi, was, with the help of some goons, dragging Sikhs out of their cars and scooters, manhandling them on the R&A Bridge and throwing some of them over the bridge onto the railway tracks below. The
एक
fact,
मिनट दादा, एक मिनट कौन है ये?
जी, जी, जी.
अर्जुन दास, अच्छा. हाँ. The fact that the police did not stop Arjun Das and his men from what they were doing at a place about 2 kilometers from the PM's residence and only 1 kilometer from Tughlaq Road police station, and that too in broad daylight, indicated that Arjun Das and his goons enjoyed political protection. The concern on the face of that young man for my safety amply demonstrates that there was no anger in the minds of Hindus against Sikhs in general in the immediate aftermath of Indira Gandhi's assassination by her 2 Sikh police guards. It would therefore be obvious that the persons involved in the Anti-Sikh Pogrom were groups of organized goons abetted and in some cases led by Congress leaders in active connivance with the police. Golf 1, 2, 3. I learned from Sikhs and I learned about Sikhs and their properties being targeted in Delhi during the night of 31st of October from some friends, and then from the BBC radio broadcast the next morning. In fact, the house of a friend in Defence Colony was attacked at around 9:30 p.m. that night, and some of his belongings set on fire. Government offices were closed on 1st of November. On 2nd of November, I preferred to stay at home as I didn't want to put my carpool friends in harm's way. On 1st of November at around 11 a.m., I got a call from Director RAW, Gary Saxena, who told me that sitting in his office in the corner on the 11th floor, he could see smoke pouring out from a number of buildings, obviously belonging to Sikhs. Due to the deteriorating law and order situation, he said he was sending a 3-man SSB guard to my residence to ensure my safety. A bit surprised at his gesture, I told him that as I was in a government residential complex, there was no need for a guard. He said if I required any help, I should call him immediately. Those days I had a powerful transistor radio which had all the frequencies and on which I could listen to major news broadcasts from around the world. It also had frequencies which could catch air traffic control communication and the Delhi Police Wireless Network. Obviously, these had been of no interest to me, but had been accidentally discovered while I tried to locate and lock in the frequencies of important radio news broadcasting stations in which I was interested. After receiving Gary's call, I remembered that I could access the Delhi Police Wireless Network on my radio. I started monitoring it intermittently for the next 3 days and even nights. I found it had 3 call signs on a single frequency, which sounded like GAF 1, 2, and 3. Later, my batchmate, P.S. Bawa, who had been Additional Commissioner of Police, New Delhi Range, before Gautam called and was at that time posted as IGP Goa, told me that these call signs were actually Golf 1, 2, and 3 and were used for messages meant for the police commissioner, joint commissioner, and 2 additional commissioners in charge of 2 police ranges, which were in Delhi and New Delhi. In November 1984, these posts were manned by Subhash Chandra Tandon, Nikhil Kumar under orders of transfer, Hukum Chand Jatav, and Gautam Kaul, respectively. I was horrified by what I heard on this network. I wished I had recorded it. In fact, a whole book of shame could have been written based on the contents of those conversations alone. For me, a person with a police background, listening to the communication on that network was a matter of shame and disgust. Only heartless, ruthless, and gutless police officers who could sell their souls for career progression could have spoken in that manner. When I heard on the police network, what I heard on the police network was also a painful reminder of the Sikh persecution during the regime of Zakaria Khan, governor of Lahore, 1726 to 45.
Tormented by the exploits of the Sikhs against his rule, Zakaria Khan had laid down a graded scale of rewards for action against them. A blanket for cutting of Sikh's hair, 10 rupees for information about the whereabouts of a Sikh, 50 rupees for a Sikh scalp. Plunder of Sikh homes was made lawful, giving shelter to Sikhs or withholding information about their movements was made a capital offense. The first thing which startled me was the information passed on by Chanakyapuri police station staff on duty at the nearby Yashwant Place market, which used to be part of the Chanakya cinema complex. Some goons were looting Sikh-owned shops in that market and manhandling the owners. The same group was planning to loot the house of a Sikh officer in the first quadrangle of the Satya Mark D1 flats, the residential complex where I lived, who had recently returned from abroad and had a number of imported gadgets in his house. I immediately realized that this officer was Ranjit Singh Kalha, a 1965 batch IFS officer who had recently returned from London, where he was posted as a counselor in the High Commission of India and was at the same time posted as Joint Secretary Americas in the Ministry of External Affairs. Incidentally, his flat was just below mine. I did two things. I immediately called Kalha on phone and said, without disclosing the source of my information, told him that there was a plan to target his house. I asked him whether he had any weapons, and he told me he had a 12-bore double-barrel gun and a .32-bore revolver. Both were licensed, but without ammunition. I then called Gary Saxena and requested him to send the SSB guard. Realizing the gravity of the situation and the likelihood of my flat also being targeted, I decided to shift out of my flat with my family and go across to my batchmate and close friend Sudhir Devare's flat in the second quadrangle and remain there till the arrival of the guard. We had come to know from Sudhir, an IFS officer, and his wife Hema rather well when Sudhir and I were both posted at Gangtok. Walking the 200 meet to Sudhir's flat felt like the longest distance I had ever walked. Lots of things came to my mind. I could visualize what might have been going through the minds of millions of Hindus and Sikhs who were forced to leave their homes in West Punjab, now part of Pakistan, and moved to India in the wake of the partition in 1947. And here was a government officer compelled to flee his home in a government colony in his own beloved country because he had happened to be an easily identifiable turban-wearing Sikh who had to be made to pay the price for the assassination of a popular prime minister. The new, less than a day old prime minister seemed to have abdicated his duty to protect the life, honor, and property of thousands of Sikhs in the capital city and elsewhere as he was mourning the death of his mother. We pay you taxes and you protect our lives and property was the cornerstone on which the concept of a nation state had evolved. He was the prime minister of a 20th century democratic, socialist and secular Republic of India who had all the resources at his disposal to fulfill this basic constitutional obligation towards thousands of law-abiding innocent Sikh citizens of the country, but he had chosen not to. If the newly installed Prime Minister wanted to avert that tragedy, he just had to call Home Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao, later Prime Minister, on the phone directly or tell his experienced Principal Secretary to convey his message to him. But he didn't or chose not to for the reasons mentioned below. A new Prime Minister. Things were going on as planned till Indira Gandhi's assassination. If allowed to go unavenged, this tragic loss had the potential of derailing the Congress Party's election campaign and jeopardizing Rajiv Gandhi's succession as Prime Minister of the country. Director Raw Gary Saxena had already warned me on 8th of June 1984, mentioned earlier in this chapter, of the possibility of large-scale killings of Sikhs in Delhi in case Indira Gandhi was assassinated by a Sikh for her. perceived role in the developments in Punjab leading to Operation Blue Star. It would thus appear that the One Akbar group had visualized such a possibility in the aftermath of Operation Blue Star and had planned for it when and if the time came for its implementation. Let us examine what members of the One Akbar group were doing on the day Indira Gandhi was shot, and how by that evening the riots had turned into an anti-Sikh pogrom. Rajiv Gandhi learnt about his mother being shot from Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee while addressing an election rally at Kontai, Kolaghat in West Bengal, in Midnapur district, Kontai. Cutting his speech short, both Rajiv and Mukherjee reached Kolaghat by road around noon, left for Calcutta by helicopter and took a special Indian Airlines flight to New Delhi at around 1 p.m., reaching New Delhi at 3 p.m. Incidentally, anti-Sikh riots started in some pockets of Kolkata soon after Rajiv's plane left Kolkata airport. In a West Bengal ruled by the CPIM with Jyoti Basu as chief minister, these riots were controlled by Kolkata police immediately. Rajiv was received at New Delhi airport by Arun Nehru. Both left for AIIMS in the same car. What transpired between them is not fully known. One of the subjects discussed was obviously Rajiv's appointment as Prime Minister, as relations between Indira Gandhi and President Zail Singh had soured, especially after Operation Blue Star. Arun Nehru wanted Vice President R. Venkataraman to administer the oath of office to Rajiv Gandhi before the arrival of President Zail Singh, who was away on a state visit. Zail Singh, who learned the shocking news while on his way from Mauritius to Yemen, diverted its plane to New Delhi. At the AIIMS, P.C. Alexander was able to convince Rajiv Gandhi to wait for President Zail Singh's arrival. Pranab Mukherjee left for One Akbar Road at around 4:10 p.m. in Arun Nehru's car, Kamal Nath being another passenger in the car. Meanwhile, President Zail Singh's plane landed at around 5 p.m. and he went straight to AIIMS, where his car was towed and one of his staff members manhandled. Around 6:30 p.m., Zail Singh administered the oath of office as Prime Minister to Rajiv Gandhi and 4 members of his cabinet, Pranab Mukherjee, P.V. Narasimha Rao, P. Shiv Shankar, and Bhuta Singh. M.L. Foteda continued to hold the fort at One Akbar Road. It was only after his position as political secretary to the PM was confirmed, with the appointment of Rajiv Gandhi as PM and Narasimha Rao as Home Minister, that Foteda called Rao on the phone and told him for better coordination, One Akbar Road was taking over control of Delhi police. While some scattered anti-Sikh riots had broken out even earlier, for instance, around AIIMS and the INA bridge, a large-scale coordinated pogrom now followed. It started from Kidwai Nagar, not far from the AIIMS and the INA bridge. With such an eventuality had been foreseen could be borne out by the fact that on 31st of October, goons were carrying voters' lists to identify Sikh homes, and some Congress leaders were supplying them with old car tires, kerosene, oil, and other incendiary material that could be used to burn Sikhs alive. The information relating to Home Minister Narasimha Rao being asked to transfer control of Delhi police to One Akbar Road was confirmed by Ambassador K.C. Singh, retired, as well as journalist and academic Vinay Sitapati, author of Half Lion, of P.V. Narasimha Rao Transformed India, Viking Publications 2016. In his interview by In Focus magazine of the Economic Times in its issue of 26th of June to 2nd of July 2016, Sitapati made an interesting revelation in response to a question as to why he had described 1984 as the vilest hour of Narasimha Rao in his book. ये पढ़ना है सर?
हाँ पढ़ो इसको, इंटरेस्टिंग है.
This is quoted below. In the 1984 Sikh riots, the Delhi police was reporting to Rao, the Home Minister. As I point out, he got a phone call in the evening of October 31st from someone very close to Rajiv Gandhi in the PMO that violence against Sikhs was likely, and that there was a need for coordinated response, and the PMO was going to take all the policing functions into its hands. Rao could have disobeyed the orders and protected the Sikhs. He would have lost his job, but that would have been the honorable thing to do. When it came to choosing between protecting the lives of 2,733 Sikhs and listening to the Congress, he chose to listen to the Congress. Every other congressman did that, but he was the only congressman who was also the Home Minister of India. Morally, that was his lowest point. That Rao's police powers had been fully usurped by one Akbar Road was further corroborated during a recent conversation I had with Ambassador K.C. Singh, retired. He was posted as Deputy Secretary at the President's office at Rashtrapati Bhavan during those fateful days. K.C. narrated how, on the morning of 1st of November, upon seeing smoke emanating from some buildings in the nearby markets and residential areas, Zail Singh had called Home Minister Narasimha Rao to check what was happening in the city. There was no response from Rao. Later in the evening, Rao called Zail Singh back. However, instead of updating the president on developments in the city, Narasimha Rao surprised Zail Singh by seeking the latter's assistance to save one of his Sikh acquaintances, Manmohan Singh, who was living in a farmhouse in the Brijwasan area of South Delhi. Manmohan Singh, not to be confused with Dr. Manmohan Singh, who later became PM, had a shipping business in Kolkata and interests in some Hyderabad-based industries. After that, Zail Singh ordered his president's guards to pick up Manmohan Singh and drop him at a safe place in New Delhi. With the Home Minister's control over Delhi police having been taken over by one Akbar Road, most senior Delhi police officers were aware of the kind of intervention that the powers that be wanted. Only a few brave and conscientious officers from various ranks chose not to pay attention to those signals and carried out their duties as per the law, and in the right earnest till the very end. If there was any doubt about the complicity of one Akbar Road in what was happening in Delhi and elsewhere, Rajiv Gandhi removed it in his speech at an election rally on 19th of November at the Boat Club in New Delhi. Some riots took place in the country following the murder of Indira Ji, he said. We know the people were very angry, and for a few days it seemed that India had been shaken. But when a mighty tree falls, it is only natural that the earth around it does shake a little. In that speech, Rajiv Gandhi trivialized the enormity of the pogrom by describing it as riots, hence sanctifying the use of this word to refer to the horrific events of those days. He also justified the pogrom as a natural outcome of the anger resulting from Indira Gandhi's assassination, overlooked, if not justified, acts of omission and commission by the concerned Delhi police officers, and sent a signal to the many commissions and committees that would inquire into various aspects of the anti-Sikh pogrom in future as to how to weigh the evidence presented before them. Mob action, police in action. A 3-man SSB guard reached my flat in less than an hour of my conversation with Gary Saxena. Our household help informed us of their arrival, thanking Sudhir and Hema for providing us refuge in our hour of need. We returned to our flat. The same evening, residents of D1 and D2 flats on Satya Marg and Vinay Marg held a meeting in the quadrangle in front of my flat where the implications of the ongoing riots for the residents of our complex were discussed. One of the residents openly said what was happening in Delhi was organized by some members of the Congress party. It was finally decided that 2 groups of college-going boys, each accompanied by a senior, would make rounds of the colony at night in their cars and raise an alarm if anything suspicious came to their notice. Fortunately, nothing of the sort happened in our area. Maybe the organizers of the pogrom had consciously decided against targeting Sikhs living in government offices, residential colonies, especially those located in Lutyens, Delhi. Incidentally, the D1 and D2 flats on Satya Marg and Vinay Marg were not very far from Arjun Das's workshop. He and others might have come to know about the unity of the residents there and the security arrangements they had made. They might have also had there might also have been prior knowledge about the deployment of a guard at my residence and perhaps of my raw connection. That became obvious in the first week of January 1985, when out of the blue I received an India postcard with handwritten New Year's greetings from Arjun Das. I wish I had kept that as a memento, but I was so furious on seeing his name that I tore it up immediately. Incidentally, Arjun Das was killed in his workshop by three motorcycle-borne Sikh terrorists on 4th of September 1985.
Incidentally, Arjun Das was killed in his workshop by three motorcycle-borne Sikh terrorists on 4th September.
1985. In addition to the information regarding Ranjit Kala, I picked up more from listening in on conversations by the police on the police wireless network. Some of these conversations, which I still clearly remember, are briefly mentioned below. Late afternoon, 1st of November, policemen on duty at a market informed the Delhi Police Control Room that some hooligans had set fire to a shop owned by a Sikh and they needed some help to control the hooligans. The response of the control room was that it was possible the fire had been caused by an electric short circuit and that they did not need to bother about it. In the end, the policemen on duty were advised to move away from the place. Later that evening, on receiving similar information through the police wireless network, I telephoned my batchmate Gunjit Singh from the Indian Revenue Service, who was posted in New Delhi as Assistant Commissioner Income Tax, to inform him about vandalism taking place not very far from his house in J Block, Saket, confirming the presence of about 50 hooligans not very far from his house. Gunjit was surprised how I had come to know about it. Appreciating my concern for his safety, he said the station house officer at the Saket police station was known to them, and he had assured them that no harm would come to them. Later, on the intervening night of 1st and 2nd November, policemen on duty at Dhaula Kuan crossing informed the control room that some hooligans were forcibly taking 8 young Sikh girls towards the forested area of the nearby ridge. They had sought orders as to how to handle the situation. The caller used the word bhainse, buffaloes, for the Sikh girls. The response from the control room was that the police force deployed there need not worry about them, as the sergeants, bulls chasing them, would take care of them. Around the same time, policemen from Defense Colony started making frantic calls to the control room, informing them about the movement of an army vehicle carrying Sikh soldiers in that area. It appeared that a senior retired Sikh officer living in Defense Colony had sought help from the army units stationed in the cantonment for his safety. Soon after, frantic messages started flowing in and out of the control room to ascertain who had sent the troops and under whose orders. That was the only time I witnessed the control room exhibit concern and urgency in dealing with the call received from the local police. The control room saw to it that the troops returned to their base as soon as possible. Repeated calls the same night over a period of a couple of hours were received by the control room from policemen on duty at Tughlakabad railway station. According to them, a large crowd had gathered there and had planned to stop even by tampering with the signals. Trains arriving or passing through that station and going towards Delhi. It seemed they planned to kill Sikhs traveling on the trains. As the local police force was heavily outnumbered, they asked for reinforcements. They fetched no response from the control room. Very soon, they began informing the control room about the stopping of trains and killing of Sikh passengers by hooligans. Still, there was no response. Some of the above incidents were witnessed by Professor Madhu Dandavate, former Union Minister for Railways and Finance, and at that time member of the Lok Sabha. He submitted his eyewitness account to the Justice Ranganath Mishra Commission in in the form of affidavits. On the night of the 1st of November, he was traveling by Rajdhani Express from Bombay to New Delhi. The train reached Mathura station in the early hours of 2nd of November. Nothing happened there as there was a large number of alert armed policemen. When the train reached Tughlakabad station on November 2nd morning, a large number of persons carrying iron rods, axes, crowbars, etc. entered our train. They were searching for Sikh passengers in the train. I found 2 Sikhs killed and thrown on the platform, and then their bodies were set on fire. The police standing on the platform made no effort to prevent either the killing or the burning of the Sikhs. A Sikh railway employee who had come out of the station master's office was also killed on the spot. The train halted there for 4 hours because of a rumor that a large crowd of Sikhs had gathered near Ashram Marg and they would stop the train and kill Hindu passengers. The train left only when the rumor was found to be false. Dandavate also stated in his affidavit that he had discovered 3 more dead bodies of Sikhs in various compartments of the train. He was of the view that the murder of the Sikhs could have definitely been prevented if the police at Tughlakabad station had not remained passive spectators. Further, the police party standing at the foot of the overbridge turned out to be a group of tacit spectators and made no attempt to extinguish the fire when the 2 bodies were being burnt. According to one FIR, a request was made to the police by the railway staff of Nangaloi station to remove 12 dead bodies of Sikhs from there. A total of 7 FIRs were lodged in this connection. 46 trains were forced to make unauthorized halts, either at railway stations where they were not scheduled to halt, stop, or outside stations. Justice Ranganath Mishra observed that it was clear from these FIRs, as also from other FIRs where similar allegations had been made, that no arrangements were made to protect passengers, either of trains that were running or stood halted at railway stations. If proper care had been taken and the police had remained active and played even the normal role of policemen, as Professor Dandavate told the commission, nothing untoward would have happened. The commission took note of the difference in the arrangements at Mathura Junction in Uttar Pradesh and at the stations within the Union Territory of Delhi. Whether it be the RPF, Government Railway Police, or Delhi Police, all appear to have become indifferent within their Union Territory. Unfortunately, other than a number of commissions and committees that followed, nothing happened to the known goons and murderers who continued to roam freely without any fear of law or justice. How the eyewitnesses who had submitted affidavits were treated by Justice Ranganath Mishra when they were called to record their evidence would be clear from the following account. Journalist Sanjay Suri had covered the Anti-Sikh pogrom in Delhi extensively from the Indian Express. He has written about it in his book, 1984, The Anti-Sikh Violence and After. That book covers the mass killings, arson and rapes in colonies like Sultanpuri and Trilokpuri. Suri recounts an incident that occurred in the afternoon of 1st of November outside Gurdwara Rakabganj, not very far from Teen Murti Bhavan, where the mortal remains of Indira Gandhi were lying in state and mourners were walking past, some of them shouting, "Khoon ka badla khoon," blood for blood. When Suri reached Gurdwara Rakabganj on his scooter, he saw a crowd advancing menacingly towards the Gurdwara in full view of a CRPF platoon and the Additional Commissioner Police, New Delhi Range, Gautam Kaul. Congress MP Kamal Nath, a member of the One Akbar Road group, was also standing nearby. 2 Sikhs had just been burnt alive outside the Gurdwara. According to Suri, all stood static alongside some CRPF men. The Gurdwara was being targeted. In the presence of a large police force, the designer police made no move to stop the men advancing on. All made no move to order them to do so. According to Suri, Kaul later denied this. Of course he would. About Kamal Nath, Suri says, when the crowd surged forward at one point, Kamal Nath had only to gesture lightly and they held back. What was the relation between Kamal Nath and that crowd that he had only to raise his hand towards it and it held back? All that time he was there. The crowd had stayed there violently and aggressively. Father Suri wrote, Kamal Nath had come down from Teen Murti Bhavan. The crowd too had come from there, as Kusum Lata Mittal report into policing failure categorically declares. Kamal Nath later said he was not leading the mob in any attack that he had. On the contrary, only tried to control the situation. When the inquiry commission headed by serving Supreme Court Judge Justice Ranganath Mishra was set up in 1985, Sanjay Suri decided to submit his evidence through affidavits as to what he had seen during that period, including what he saw on the 1st of November at Gurudwara Rakabganj. After his evidence was recorded, he was cross-examined by two lawyers. The first asked him if he could produce an eyewitness who could testify that he had been at those places he had reported from. When Suri mentioned that his evidence was based on his personal observation, the lawyer told him, "Don't get excited. You must never get excited." Upon which Justice Mishra nodded in agreement and said the witness should not get excited when presenting evidence. Suri says the second lawyer who spoke kindly asked him if he could produce a logbook from the Indian Express that would list exactly where I was in the city and at what time, and could such a book confirm that I was indeed at those places I had my eyewitnesses account from. I don't have to comment on this and would like to leave to the reader's best judgment as to how the eyewitness evidence of reliable witnesses was treated by a commission headed by a serving Supreme Court judge. Justice Mishra later retired as Chief Justice of India. After retirement, he was made chairman of the National Human Rights Commission and was finally elected as a member of the Rajya Sabha, 1998 to 2004, on a Congress ticket. Justice delayed, denied. On 11th of January 2018, the Supreme Court constituted a 3-member special investigation team under former Delhi High Court Judge Justice S.N. Dhingra. The other 2 members were Abhishek Dular, a serving IPS officer of the 2006 batch from the Himachal Pradesh cadre, and Rajdeep Singh, a former IGP rank officer of the BSF. The purpose of the SIT was to examine the 199 cases that another SIT, appointed in February 2015 by the government and headed by IPS officer Pramod Asthana, had recommended for closure, along with 42 other cases that a Supreme Court appointed supervisory committee of 2 former judges had examined. As Rajdeep Singh expressed his inability to join the SIT, the Supreme Court in November 2018 allowed the remaining 2 to carry out the investigation. In January 2019, the court gave the SIT 3 months to file its report. The report was finalized and submitted to the Union Law Ministry by the end of April 2019. Though Justice Dhingra had been asking the Law Ministry officials for the past 8 months to seek a date from the court so that the SIT's work could be brought to a closure for reasons best known to the Law Ministry, it submitted his report to the Supreme Court in a sealed cover only in November 2019. The SIT report was finally taken up by the Supreme Court on 15th of January 2020. The Solicitor General informed the Supreme Court that the central government had accepted the recommendations of this committee and would take action as per its recommendations. In this report, the Dhingra committee took special note of the Tughlakabad railway station incident. It observed that the Tughlakabad railway station massacre saw police recover 71 bodies, 29 of which remained unidentified. The police said the rioters were very many in number, hence they could only prevent the massacre. the police did not identify a single rioter later. Some of the other observations made by Justice Dhingra committee are as follows. 1. Hundreds of affidavits about the riots were received by the Justice Ranganath Mishra Commission in 1985, but those were converted into FIRs only in 1991 and 1992. 2. In almost all the cases, the trial judges to whom the cases were sent after investigation rejected the testimonies of witnesses on the grounds of delay in filing of the FIRs, delay in recording the statements of witnesses, and so on. 3. The police did not register FIRs crime-wise and clapped all complaints from one area into one FIR. It is humanly impossible for one investigating officer to investigate about 200 cases. Had the administration and the police been serious about punishing the culprits, a special task force for investigating crimes committed within the jurisdiction of each police station should have been created by providing the necessary infrastructure. The police also did not preserve any forensic evidence with regard to unidentified bodies so that at a later stage, identification through forensic evidence could be done. 4. The committee held the SHO of Sultanpuri Police Station, Suryavar Singh Tyagi, who was later promoted to Assistant Commissioner, to have been hand in glove with the rioters and recommended that his case be sent to the Delhi Police Riot Cell for action. 5. The whole effort of the police and the administration seemed to have been to hush up the criminal cases concerning riots. Though the SIT report attracted a lot of attention in the media and generated hope of justice among the affected Sikh families, in his interview with Puneet Nicholas Yadav of Outlook, 18th of January 2020, Justice Dhingra mentioned that out of the 199 cases, he could not recommend the reopening of investigation into even one case. At best, there are no grounds for appeal in a handful of cases, but none for investigation. At best, there are grounds for appeal in a handful of cases, but none for investigation because of the manner in which they have been compromised by not just the police, but also the judicial system. In most of the cases, original records have been weeded out from the trial courts because of the long period of time that has elapsed. In several cases, we issued summons to witnesses only to learn that the individuals concerned had died many years ago. In the end, Justice Dhingra made some very pertinent remarks. I do not believe that a conviction in a ghastly crime or massacre after 30 or 40 years having lapsed amounts to justice. After such a long time, most of those who had lost their loved ones had died too. To those who are alive, how do you justify a sentence after 35 years? How do you call it justice? Justice after 35 years may make for good headlines for you people in the media, but for a human being who has lost everything because of that riot, it will mean nothing.
दादा फिनिश हो गया ये.
कोर्ट के सामने एविडेंस ही नहीं आएगा तो करेगा क्या कोर्ट? अच्छा, जितना आया भी है लोअर कोर्ट भी देखिए कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो गया.
अब बताओ, एक R&AW का ऑफिसर को बेचारे को बचना पड़ रहा था.
हाँ, अच्छा, जो चीज वो कर रहे थे ना, आपके पास शॉर्टवेव रेडियो यदि अभी भी है या रहता है, देखिए उसमें ATC और लोकल वायरलेस पकड़ लेता है शॉर्टवेव में. तो अच्छा हुआ कि उनको ये चीज पता था. अभी भी आता है वो चाइनीज रेडियो जो मिलता है ना, उसमें भी है काला वाला जो छोटा छोटा जो बिकता है.
बम्बई में तो शॉर्ट वेव पकड़ता ही नहीं है यार, ना शॉर्ट वेव पकड़ता ना मीडियम वेव पकड़ता, कुछ पकड़ता नहीं, इतना डिस्टर्बेंस है.
नहीं, तो आप वो कीजिए ना, छत पे तांबे का तार लगाइए और उसको अपना. हाँ, मैं किया हूँ ना, बता रहा हूँ मैं आपको. तांबे का तार जो है कहीं से मंगवाइए और छत पे लगा कर ना नीचे खिड़की से कहीं घुसा दीजिए, पकड़ लेगा. उस एंटीना के साथ लगाइएगा, थोड़ा सा हिसिंग साउंड होगी, लेकिन हेडफोन का यदि जैक है तो आप आराम से. रात को मैं सुनता था.
डॉक्स एरिया में पकड़ता है, डॉक्स एरिया में बीबीसी भी पकड़ लेता था, लेकिन जब
नहीं, बीबीसी तो स्टेशन है सर, बीबीसी स्टेशन है। मैं बोल रहा हूँ पुलिस वायरलेस और एटीसी, एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल। जैसे हमारे यहाँ एक कलकत्ता का है या रंगून के साथ, तो बोलता है कि उस समय रंगून और ढाका सब पकड़ता था एकदम। कलकत्ता कॉलिंग रंगून, फ्लाइट सो एंड सो, फ्लाइट लेवल सो एंड सो।
वो तो गांव में मैं सुनता था, गांव में आता था, वो तो पूरा बताता है, फ्लाइट सो एंड सो जाती है, ये सब ये पढ़ रहे हैं।
या ऑफ कोर्स वेयर टू द राइट, इतना डिग्रीज करके बोलता है पूरा एटीसी।
ये पढ़ना है, इसका आफ्टर मैथ क्या है, पढ़ोगे?
जी, अच्छा, प्लेन का नाम भी बोलता था सर, प्लेन का नाम भी बोलता था, लुफ्थांसा 121 रेडी फॉर टेक ऑफ करके। फिर वो स्टैटिक आवाज आता था, फिर पायलट बोलता था लुफ्थांसा सो एंड सो रेडी फॉर टेक ऑफ करके। हम लोग बहुत सुने हैं ये सब। कोई काम नहीं था उस समय, तो टीवी भी थी नहीं, कहाँ अपना टीवी था या मोबाइल था, कुछ नहीं था, न कंप्यूटर अपने हाथ में था, कुछ नहीं। या तो किताब पढ़ो, नहीं तो ये सब करो, नहीं तो बाहर खेलो कूदो, और क्या।
इसका आफ्टर मैथ पढ़ना है, थोड़ा पढ़ें आफ्टर मैथ में क्या हुआ।
जी पढ़ लेते हैं,
क्योंकि अब ये तो खत्म हो गया, इसके बाद अब यही बचा है। वो जो मतलब इलेक्शन के बाद में जब राजीव गांधी आ गए थे, फिर कितना पंजाब में क्या हुआ, और फिर वो गिल साहब ने कैसे उनको संभाला दे पूरे सिचुएशन को।
जी
ये देखो आफ्टर मैथ है ना ये।
जी, ये आफ्टर मैथ।
कितने पेजेज हैं इसके? एक मिनट सर, 12 पेजेज है ये, देखो
जी। Rajiv Gandhi, in his election speech on 19th of November 1984 at the Boat Club in New Delhi, had justified the anti-Sikh pogrom as a natural outcome of public anger generated by an earth-shaking event. What he did not realize was that sometimes minor tremors can also lead to a major earthquake. That is precisely what happened in Punjab in the decade that followed that speech. The felling of thousands of small trees during Operation Blue Star and the Anti-Sikh pogrom of November 1984 was bound to cause tremors in Punjab. The killing of thousands of innocent Sikhs were also bound to generate intense anger among an entire community, as getting very angry over the killing of a loved one cannot be the prerogative of a single family or party. Sikhs comprise about 1.75% of India's population, and since they had hardly any voting potential outside Punjab, some politicians thought that they could easily be ignored and pushed about. And that was what happened. As a result, Punjab's industrial and economic growth, already stalled during the impact of Operation One launched in 1978, suffered a huge setback. Earlier, the whole of India belonged to the Sikhs and vice versa. But following the November 1984 pogrom, an entire insecure generation of Sikh youth got bottled up in Punjab, and the next generation got busy, either enjoying life by living far beyond their means or by seeking greener pastures in countries like Canada. Many more, who were left behind in the race for life, started cutting themselves off from the realities of the world by taking refuge in drugs. Those Sikhs, especially of the younger generation who had to stay outside Punjab for one reason or the other, sought safety in becoming clean shaven, as they had observed or heard that both in Haryana in November 1982 during Asian Games and the anti-Sikh pogrom of 1984, it was the turban over the head of a Sikh and not the Sikh per se which was under attack. Gradually, it became a matter of convenience among the Sikh youth, and the young Sikh mothers found it extremely difficult to raise, train, and maintain a turbaned Sikh young boy in the family. The Pakistani agenda. Pakistan had been smarting from the loss of its eastern wing ever since Bangladesh emerged as an independent nation in December 1981 with India's help. In my view, the turmoil in Punjab set in motion by the activities of the one Akbar group was the greatest gift India could have given to Pakistan, which it has continued to relish until today. The Inter-Services Intelligence (ISI) had always been meddling in the affairs of Punjab, but until the early 1980s, this meddling was limited to small-scale operations like smuggling and intelligence collection, mainly because of an unreceptive population. The activities of the One Akbar group created fertile ground for the ISI to make deeper inroads in Punjab, and they took full advantage of this situation. They organized training for the disgruntled young Sikh extremists by taking them across the border, or even by supplying them with the latest arms, including AK-47 rifles within Punjab. It was generally believed by knowledgeable observers at the time that some of the killings in Punjab in the first half of the 1980s was directly or indirectly carried out by ISI-backed militants, and their interference continued for a long time after that. Operation Blue Star and the Anti-Sikh Pogrom of November 1984 helped Pakistan carry forward its two-pronged agenda planned by the wily Jalandhar-born and St. Stephen College educated President 1978 to 1988 Muhammad Ziaul Haq. In pursuit of that policy, throughout the 1980s and even later, Pakistan continued to add fuel to the fire in Punjab to keep the Indian security forces tied up with restoring peace and stability in the state. On the other hand, the ISI upgraded the level of its covert support to separatists in Jammu and Kashmir and increased the level of cross-border infiltration of Pakistan-based terrorists. The overstretched Indian security forces were thereafter forced to control the situation on two fronts. While Punjab was still counting its dead and looking for missing loved ones, by the time the situation stabilized in that state, it had worsened considerably in Jammu and Kashmir. I've always believed, and I've shared my views on the subject with close friends, that the situation in Jammu and Kashmir would not have worsened as it has had one Akbar Road not fiddled with the situation in Punjab. The outcome of Operation 2 launched by the One Akbar Road group in the early 1980s ended in the events of 1984. It also gave birth to a hitherto non-existent cause, Khalistan, thereby providing an opportunity to certain countries, particularly Pakistan, to use that as a handle to further their respective agendas vis-a-vis India. The ISI would find one reason or another to continue destabilizing the strategically located state of Punjab. A new dimension to the situation was added when in August 2019, the NDA government revoked Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, which had granted limited autonomy to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The subsequent decision to divide the state into two union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, must have come as a rude shock to Pakistani authorities. As a result, the ISI is expected to further bolster its pro-Khalistan propaganda in Punjab and in countries such as Canada, the UK, and the US, which have a sizable Sikh diaspora. Over the years, Pakistan's ISI has created a number of organizations, assets, and built an impressive infrastructure within Pakistan, in Western countries, and even among some sympathizers in Punjab to carry forward its anti-India and pro-Khalistan agenda. Out of the 9 foreign-based Sikhs declared as individual terrorists under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act by the Ministry of Home Affairs on 1st of July 2020, 4 enjoy the ISI's hospitality in Pakistan. They are Ranjit Singh Panwar, since deceased, head of Khalistan Commando Force. Ranjit Singh Nita, head of Khalistan Zindabad Force. Vadhwa Singh, head of Babbar Khalsa International. And Lakhbir Singh, leader of International Sikh Youth Federation. 2, namely Bhupender Singh Bhinda, and Gurmeet Singh Bagga, important members of KZF, are based in Germany. Hardeep Singh Nijjar,
ये मर गया.
since deceased, the Khalistan Tiger Force chief is in Canada. Paramjit Singh is no longer in Canada, is gone to hell. Paramjit Singh, head of the UK branch of BKI, is in the UK. And Gurpatwant Singh Pannu,
ये तो एशिया में है.
leader of Sikhs for Justice, is based in the US. Interestingly, the name of Dal Khalsa International chief Rajendra Singh, who had hijacked an Indian Airlines plane in 1981, does not figure in this list. He continues to live in Lahore. While the external ramifications of the ISIS-sponsored pro-Khalistan activities are dealt with in the next chapter, it will be relevant to mention here that with the opening of the Kartarpur corridor and Pakistan's plan of promoting Sikh religious tourism to other places of interest to the Sikhs in the country, the role of the above-mentioned organizations and other assets created by Pakistan could be further intensified and diversified. In addition to generating foreign exchange for Pakistan, this is likely to expose a number of Sikh religious tourists, both from India and abroad, to the anti-India designs. The ISI can also launch high-sounding Sikh religious, social societies or NGOs in third countries and even in Punjab to generate money, thereby making their pro-Khalistan and anti-India operations financially self-sustaining and atmosphere vitiated. It is easy to mix poison in a pond of water, but very difficult to purify a pond thus poisoned. Following the November 1984 Anti-Sikh pogrom, turbaned Sikhs living outside Punjab were viewed with suspicion, and snide remarks continued to be made against them by the ignorant, malicious, or a certain section of an indoctrinated public for quite some time. As an example, sometime in the middle of 1985, I had gone to Lodi Road Post Office to send a letter by speed post. I was standing in a queue of 7 to 8 people, and there was only one person ahead of me at the counter. A peon or an office help who must have been not more than 30 years old walked into the post office with a number of envelopes in his hand and stood in front of me without even looking at the queue. No sooner had I asked him to go to the end of the queue and wait for his turn than he started shouting, "How come these people are still roaming around in India? Why don't they leave this country and go to their country?" At the time, I had the physical strength to pin him to the ground in seconds and to tell him, "Who are you to ask me to leave my country? I was born here and I will die here." But better sense prevailed when I realized that I should not give that individual the dignity of being thrashed in public by a senior government of India official. Giving him a scornful look, I stood quietly even as the post office staff asked him to move to the end of the queue. Even a distant state like Bihar could not remain immune to such influences. Sponsored by his elder brother, Amarjit Sohi had immigrated from Punjab to Edmonton in Canada in 1981. There, he took a job as a bus driver. He also joined a local Punjabi literary society and became an actor and a playwright in the Punjabi theatre group. Strictly opposed to Sikh fundamentalism, he was also opposed to state oppression. Still holding his Indian passport, so he returned to India in November 1988 to pursue his interest in drama as a playwright, but instead joined an activist group advocating land reforms in Bihar. Local police arrested Sohi and his associates a day before they were to launch an agitation for land reforms. Though clean-shaven, Sohi's Canada connection led the police to believe that they have captured a Sikh terrorist. This led to a thorough interrogation at the local police station. To his luck, a young lady deputy commissioner with a Punjab background was convinced about his innocence and got him transferred to judicial custody to let him pursue his case in a court of law. He was charged under the Terrorist and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act, TADA. As he was still an Indian citizen, he was denied access to Canadian diplomatic officers. After spending 21 months in prison, 18 of them in solitary confinement, he was finally discharged in July 1990 as a result of the efforts of some Canadian journalists and activists, including members of Amnesty International. On his return to Canada, he acquired Canadian citizenship. In November 2015, he was elected Member of Parliament as a Liberal Party candidate from Edmonton Millwoods constituency. He joined Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet and served as Minister for Information and Communities from November 2015 to July 2018. He, however, lost his seat to his Conservative Party rival in the last elections held in 2019. Fake encounter. Amongst the most shocking examples of how a vitiated atmosphere can lead to immense cruelty was a July 1991 incident in Pilbit district of Uttar Pradesh. From 12th of July 1991, a group of Sikh pilgrims from Pilbit were returning by bus after visiting Nanak Matha, Patna Sahib, Hazur Sahib, and other places of pilgrimage. Police intercepted the bus near a bridge at Kachal Ghat in Pilbit district at 11 a.m. and forced 10 male Sikh passengers to get off the bus and sit in another vehicle. The rest of the passengers, including the women and the children, were taken to a local Gurudwara. On the intervening night of 12th and 13th July, the 10 Sikhs were taken to a nearby forest and shot dead in a fake encounter by a joint team from 3 adjoining police stations, Bilsanda, Neoria, and Puranpur. The next day, the policemen claimed that 10 Khalistani terrorists having previous criminal records had been killed and arms and ammunition had been recovered from them. The police got an autopsy of the dead bodies done before cremating them the same day. On the basis of a PIL filed by senior advocate R.S. Sodhi, the Supreme Court entrusted the investigation of the case to the CBI. Filing charges against 57 policemen on 12th of June 1991, the CBI described the motive behind the killings as a desire on the part of the local police to earn rewards and recognition for killing terrorists. The CBI court at Lucknow framed charges on 20th of January 2003 and finally sentenced 47 policemen to life imprisonment on 4th of April 2016, 25 years after the incident. By that time, 10 of the accused had died and 27 others who had retired from service had gone underground and were not available on the day of the judgment. According to one report, the local police later located 6 of the missing cops, including Inspector Harpal Singh, who was posted as SHO of Neoria police station at the time of the fake encounter. During my 7-year tenure as an IPS officer in UP, I had enjoyed genuine respect from my juniors. I could also observe that Sikhs were never treated as outsiders. In fact, their contribution to the development of the Tarai area, of which Pilbit was a part, was duly appreciated. In an otherwise caste-ridden society, Sikhs were considered to be the sort who minded their own business. In the way that viruses don't recognize territorial boundaries, it appeared that sections of the UP police too were infected by the communal virus. They might have heard stories of the Punjab police counterparts getting out-of-turn promotions, rewards, other benefits and recognition for killing terrorists. But what they got was that UP was not Punjab. What they forgot was that UP was not Punjab, and that where
Yes,
such incidents might be overlooked in the mistaken belief that doing so would serve the larger interest of bringing peace and stability to a troubled state. To ascertain how the Punjab police actually dealt with terrorism during that period, I sought out my batchmate Chaman Lal, IPS, 1964 MP cadre. What he told me at the India International Center on 8th of August 2020 is summed below. On DGP Punjab K.S. Dhillon's request, Chaman Lal joined Punjab Police as DIG administration in January 1985 and was assigned the task of revamping the state's Police in the aftermath of Operation Blue Star. In April 1986, he was appointed DIG Border BSF at Gurdaspur with oversight powers over Punjab Police to deal with the problem of terrorism in the border areas. On promotion, he joined Punjab Police as IGP Border, which post he held from April 1988 to October 1988. As DIG Border BSF and later as IGP Border Punjab Police, he extensively toured the rural areas of the three most adversely affected districts of Punjab and found that there was no sign of communal tension between Sikhs and Hindus. He also found that the policy of ruthless suppression of Sikh militancy was taking the Punjab police nowhere. If a terrorist was killed, his place was quickly taken by another. What convinced him to follow a policy of winning hearts and minds of the local population, as it would be a better way to isolate the hardcore and Pakistan-inspired terrorists. Chaman Lal's policy of dealing with the situation as per the law eventually helped him to win the confidence of the people of Punjab. And also DGP Julio Ribeiro, March 1986 to March 1988. In recognition of the services rendered by him during the period, the Government of India bestowed upon him the National Award of Padma Shri on the occasion of the 1988 Republic Day. Following Operation Black Thunder 2, May 9th to 18th May 1988, as per information reaching Ribeiro, by now advisor to the Governor of Punjab, the general rural population had lost all respect for the boys, a term used in Punjab at the time to describe the terrorists. Keeping that in view, the rural populace's feeling was that the best way to further isolate the boys would be to put a stop to the cordon and search operations launched under DGP KPS Gill's instructions. When this suggestion was discussed by Ribeiro with Governor S.S. Ray in the presence of Gill, the latter's means Gill's policy. Letters means the governor's policy, discussed by Ribeiro with Governor S.S. Ray. The latter's policy of consolidating the gains from Black Thunder by mopping up the collaborators of terrorists prevailed over the policy of winning hearts and minds of the rural population as suggested by Ribeiro. S.S. Ray बोला था मार दो सबको.
वही ना तुम्हारा चीफ मिनिस्टर.
During his 7-month stay in Punjab after KPS Gill took over as DGP April 1988 to 1990 and again from 1991 to December 1995, Lal observed that the police started wielding immense power, becoming a law unto themselves. There was rampant corruption. Lawful policing was derided as a soft policy. During cordon and search operations, Punjab police used to pick up a number of young men. Only the parents of these men paid money to the police was a case registered. Otherwise, they were eliminated without any trace. To get higher rewards in some cases, the category of a captured terrorist was deliberately raised by registering false cases against him before he was eliminated. On 4th of March 1988, on his release from Firozpur jail, Jasbir Singh Road, nephew of Bhindranwale, started his march towards Golden Temple. Chaman Lal wanted to prevent him from entering the temple as he felt it would help in further fanning extremism in Punjab, and it would subsequently be difficult to dislodge him and his militant followers from the temple. But he was overruled by Gill, as apprehended by Chaman Lal after his appointment as Jathedar of Akal Takht. Road made a fiery speech declaring he would fight for Khalistan, complete freedom and implementation of Anandpur Sahib resolution. To register his protest, Lal held a press conference in Kotwali, Amritsar, and blamed KPS Gill for following a wrong policy. Soon after that, Chaman Lal, who had already become a liability for KPS Gill and his men, was asked to
report to the Home Ministry.
Repatriated to his cadre, Madhya Pradesh, after 4 months. After a 3-year tenure as DGP Nagaland, Chaman Lal joined BSF headquarters New Delhi as additional DGP and finally retired in September 1996. My experiences. Soon after Indira Gandhi's assassination, an unwritten decision was taken not to post any Sikh officer or staff member to the raw stations in Western Europe and North America on the grounds that they could not be trusted. That decision also impacted the future intake of Sikhs into the department. It was obvious that these decisions were taken at the highest level. Similar instructions might have been issued to other sensitive ministries and departments too. Even though I was privy to some of the most sensitive information the department handled, I suddenly became ineligible for a posting to West Europe or North America simply because I happened to be a Sikh and thus could not be fully trusted to be posted in these places. It was not the place of posting, but a procedure of selection that bothered me. Even a segment of the department's officers and staff members were not eligible for posting to certain regions because of their religious belief. Started to trouble me. I was upset, not just for myself, but on behalf of all Sikhs at the raw. From January 1985 onwards, I began sending a note annually to the Secretary Raw to convey that I was not available for foreign assignments during that year on account of personal reasons. The real reason behind sending the note was that I did not want my religion to become a factor in my selection or non-selection for a particular post. Throughout that period, and even much after I retired from service, nobody other than the secretaries raw concerned would be familiar with the real reasons behind two unusual aspects of my career at the department. First was my transfer in November 1983 from two highly sought-after divisions to an analysis division. The second was my remaining at headquarters for 10 years at a stretch, as against the prevailing norm of officers staying only 3 to 4 years at headquarters. It was in pursuance of this policy that in the middle of 1985, a very senior Sikh officer who had headed to C classification based on living conditions stations earlier and should have been posted to an A station on the normal course was sent to 3rd C station. Sometime in mid 1989, I had a one-on-one discussion with Secretary A.K. Verma in his room about the absurdity of that decision. Slightly emotionally, I told him that my family had a genealogical table going back almost 100 generations. Out of those, the last 18 generations have been Sikhs. All of them were born in India and died here. Since approximately AD 118, even the records of the immersion of ashes of my successive Sikh ancestors are available either at Haridwar or Kiratpur in Punjab. I had myself seen the entries of the Ganga immersions of the Bahi record of immersions, Bahi record of immersions maintained for our village by the Panditji at Haridwar. I had also seen the signatures of my father and great grandfather in that Bahi as visitors who had come to immerse the ashes of their loved ones. Thereafter, looking straight into Verma's eyes, I said, how come a person of my background is not to be trusted, whereas a first-generation person of foreign origin is living in one Safdarjung Road as the wife of the Prime Minister of the country?
Wow.
Have you personally satisfied yourself? Have you personally satisfied yourself about her credentials? If not, you failed in your duty as secretary. Naturally, Verma was shocked to hear what I had to say, but kept quiet. It appeared he had realized the merit of my questioning him on a fundamental issue. My sincerest apologies to Sonia Gandhi, who was obviously the subject of the above conversation. However, at the time I could not think of citing no better example to defend my honor, as my loyalty to the country had come into focus as a result of a decision that had obviously been taken at her husband's behest. I finally agreed to go to Tokyo as one of the ministers in the Embassy of India in November 1990. There were a number of reasons of my accepting that offer. Both my son and daughter had joined undergraduate courses, and the family was facing a sort of financial crunch because of that. I could see that, like some of their friends, they too wanted to see more of the world and possibly study abroad, even though they never mentioned it. Also, the post was specifically upgraded to the rank of minister for me. Despite my outwardly silent satyagraha, I continued to get outstanding appraisals in my annual service records. It was evident from the proceedings of the Departmental Promotion Committee held in December 1987, which had considered the cases of officers of 4 batches, 1962 to 1965, together for promotion from director to joint secretary rank, wherein I had superseded two officers 2 years senior to me. As a result, I was at the top of the panel approved for appointment as joint secretary. Though all the approved officers were simultaneously promoted as joint secretaries to avoid embarrassment to the superseded officers, I was in line to head the department when the time came for it.
खत्म.
Yes, sir.
बाप रे, कितना दुखते बेचारा है. How much he suffered just because he was a Sikh. साहब नमस्कार, रामन साहब नमस्कार, प्रदीप जी नमस्ते.
प्रदीप जी
नमस्ते. नमस्ते.
प्रदीप जी तो बहुत पहले आ गए, कुछ बोलिए भाई.
जी दादा, चांस पास हम दादा, रावण दादा भी दादा,
ढेर सारे आशीर्वाद हमारे तरफ से भी.
दादा आ गया था, फ्लो नहीं तोड़ना चाहता था, इसलिए आराम से चुपचाप बैठा हुआ था, काम भी कर रहा था पीछे.
जी जी जी.
निखिल आ जाओ, तुम भी कहाँ घूम रहे हो इधर उधर? अभी तक तुम वहीं हो क्या, बागेश्वर धाम में? आ जाओ इधर.
हाँ वही होंगे ना.
तेजवीर भी आ गया. चलो, क्या तमाशा किया यार
वो तेजवीर भाई.
अब अपने
नमस्कार दादा.
नमस्कार जी. नमस्कार नमस्कार.
नमस्कार रामन दादा. नमस्कार बीबी दादा. नमस्कार प्रदीप भाई.
नमस्कार भाई.
हो गई ये रामायण खत्म जीबीएस सिद्धू साहब की. मैं 5 मिनट में आ रहा हूँ वापस. थोड़ा सा ऊपर डॉगी चिल्ला रहे हैं, घर में कोई नहीं है, सोमवार की पूजा करने गए हैं लोग. आता हूँ, ठीक है?
ठीक है दादा.
घर में शिवलिंग लगा लेंगे तो अच्छा है. मैं तो रखा हूँ घर में, डेली जल चढ़ाता हूँ.
अमेरिका में पंडित नहीं मिलते, मंदिर नहीं मिलता यार. पता नहीं कितना.
अरे पंडित नहीं चाहिए ना, मैं ही पंडित हूँ. मैं
50 माइल जाना पड़ता है इनको. अभी सवेरे गए, अभी पता नहीं कब लौट करके आएंगे लोग.
अरे आप सिखा दीजिए ना मंत्र. पंडित का क्या जरूरत है? पानी और बेल पत्ता ना मिले तो भी ठीक है, पानी दूध काफी है. और क्या,
घर की मुर्गी साग बराबर होती है भाई.
सब में भगवान है, सब में भगवान है. पीछे दरवाजे जो है उसमें भी भगवान है.
अरे कल बेलपत्री की मारामारी हो रही थी, बेलपत्री नहीं मिली यहाँ पर. दुनिया भर की स्कूल में जाकर के आए.
अरे इसका बना लीजिए ना, चांदी का या सोने का.
यार ये बताओ, औरतों कौन समझाएगा? और वो भी जो 60 साल से ज्यादा बड़ी हो जाती है, उसको कौन समझाएगा? ये बताओ. और इस हालत में कुछ भी समझा नहीं सकते. कुछ भी बोलो तो उल्टा लेती हो.
जी जी. और रावण दादा सुनाइए कुछ. रावण साहब सुनाइए. कैसी है तबीयत कैसी है?
अभी ठीक है, अभी मुश्किल नहीं.
गुरु जी नमस्कार.
नमस्कार दादा. जय श्री राम. हरिओम. नमस्कार.
जय श्री राम. हरिओम तत्सत. जय श्री राम.
नमस्कार जी. नमस्कार.
नमस्कार निखिल भाई.
नमस्कार प्रदीप
समय
जी.
बढ़िया समय बिता रहे हैं वहाँ.
जी जी, आ गया, घर आ गया अभी। मैं दादा अभी
अच्छा वापस।
अभिषेक कर रहे हैं ना, अभी
जी
आज
जी।
सोमवार की पूजा कर रहे होंगे, तो हाँ घर में अभिषेक करते हैं, अच्छा रहता है, वो संपूर्ण हो जाता है
मैं
जल
तो
चढ़ा।
मैं वही करता हूँ जी।
बेलपत्री तो खैर वहां मिलेगा नहीं, जल वहाँ अवश्य होगा, जल में
मैं
संपूर्ण हो जाएगा।
मैं मेरे यहाँ मिल जाती है,
नहीं,
वो
यूएसए में
रखता
नहीं
है।
मिलेगा, यूएसए में फिर
हाँ
घर में लगा,
यूएसए में नहीं मिलेगी, हमारे यहाँ तो मिलती, तो
फिर
फूल
घर में
वाला ही
लगाना
देता है
पड़ेगा
ना।
हो जाएगा।
नहीं तो मैं इसीलिए बोला चांदी का या सोने का बना लीजिए।
जल जल चढ़ाना संपूर्ण हो जाता है भोलेनाथ को।
हाँ हाँ, शिव जी को जल चढ़ाए उसी में संतुष्ट हो जाता है, और क्या चाहिए।
और उधम सिंह जी का आज पुण्यतिथि, कल है थी?
ये तो सर ऐसा सवाल सर आप किए, नहीं जानता हूँ, बोलने में शर्म आ रही है।
नहीं, आज है या कल है, एक मिनट में कंफर्म करता हूँ, आज है कल है। हाँ जी, आज ही है।
31 जुलाई,
हाँ
जी
आज,
31 जुलाई।
जी जी जी।
लाहौर के थे, जी जी। और सर कुछ सुनाइए गुरु जी, अपना अनुभव सुनाइए।
हमारे सभी सुनने वालों के लिए जो हम टॉपिक डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, इन सभी का मेन उद्देश्य यह है कि आपके अंदर ऐसा नहीं है कि हम मार खाते जा रहे हैं, खाते जा रहे हैं। तो मैंने आज
जी जी
ऊधम
जी।
सिंह जी का उल्लेख इसलिए किया, और दिन भी शुभ है।
जी
आज
जी
ही के दिन उन्होंने अपना 31 जुलाई को अपना, उन्हें हैंग टिल डेथ, फांसी की
जी जी जी।
सजा मूर्खों द्वारा सुनाई गई थी। और वो चलो, पर किंतु उन्होंने जीवन का एक लक्ष्य प्राप्त किया था। ऐसी शुभकामना देता हूँ कि सभी अपने जीवन का ऐसा लक्ष्य अवश्य प्राप्त करें।
जी
उनके
जी
लक्ष्य को शत शत नमन। और यह जागृत होना चाहिए, जलियांवाला बाग में जो एग्जीक्यूशनर था, उसका जो मेन व्यक्ति था, उसको जो सजा, जो पनिशमेंट मिलना चाहिए थी, उसके लिए वह पथ पे उसे प्रॉपरली भेजा गया। उसके लिए तारक
जी
थे
जी
उधम
जी।
सिंह।
और निखिल जी, सबसे बड़ी बात है कि उसी के देश में जाके
हाँ, मतलब ये विश्व में जो खुफिया एजेंसियों को पढ़ना लिखना सिखाया, तो उधम सिंह जी ने ही सिखाया था, सिलेबस उन्हीं से स्टार्ट किया होगा। जैसे मोसाद फेमस है, एफबीआई फेमस है कि उस कंट्री में जाकर ही ठिकाने लगाते हैं, तो उधम सिंह जी पहले रिवॉल्यूशनरी थे, पूरे वर्ल्ड की खुफिया एजेंसी को सिखाएगा किस आदमी को कहाँ जाके कैसे ठोकना है। और ये सीखना चाहिए, आत्मसात करना चाहिए। हमारे देश में हमारी संप्रभुता, अखंडता और हमारे देशवासियों के साथ अत्याचार होता है, तो हमें वही करना चाहिए। उन्हें उनके स्थान पर ही ठीक करना चाहिए। जैसे एक अजमल कसाब आया था मुंबई में, तो उसे, उस समय तो खैर अलग टाइप की गवर्नमेंट थी, किंतु जहां से वो गंदगी आई थी, उसे उस गंदगी को वहीं जाकर ठीक करना अति आवश्यक है। आज हम जो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि हमारे भाइयों को ही, हमारे परिवार को ही टारगेट करके इन्होंने इतना बड़ा मैसेकर एग्जीक्यूट किया।
जी
दुख
जी जी।
होता है। तो इस गंदगी के जो मेन सोर्स है, उन्हें वहीं जाकर ठीक करना चाहिए।
कहीं से यूट्यूब ओपन है।
Until the last man alive, बाकी समझ लीजिए। अभी देखिए कितना नौटंकी सब होगा। सब
अच्छा
ये।
दादा,
जी जी
दादा
जी जी
अभी
जी
निखिल भाई ने बोला कि उस गंदगी को वहीं जाके सही करना चाहिए है। अब ये जो गंदगी हमारे यहाँ पॉलिटिशियंस है, इनको कहाँ जाके साफ करें?
अरे हाँ, यही साफ हो जाएगी सब।
अब इनको इटली जाके साफ करा जाए क्या?
नहीं नहीं, यही साफ होंगे लोग। देखिए, अब देखिए ना, आप देखते रहिए।
क्योंकि इनका उद्गम स्थान तो जल वल गया है, फूक
अब
गया।
जानते हैं, हमारे यहाँ जो काउंसलर पैसा कलेक्ट कर रहा था ना, मैं बता रहा था ना कि यहाँ हर बात पे पैसे लिए जाते हैं, वो भी लाखों में। परसों पकड़ के पीटा उसको सब लोग।
बहुत अच्छा।
धीरे 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 हमारे यहाँ भी लोग जागरूक हो रहे हैं।
बहुत अच्छी सफाई चल रही है। स्वच्छ भारत मिशन, अब स्वच्छ भारत मिशन वास्तविकता में आरंभ हो गया। बधाई हो एम
जी
साहब,
जी जी
बहुत शुभकामनाएं।
जी जी जी।
ऐसे
अब
शुभ
सुबह ही
समाचार
बताया।
सुनने के लिए हम तरसते हैं।
जी जी जी।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, साधु साधु। सभी ऐसे शुभ समाचार को असंख्य
बोला
मात्रा में लेकर
पैसे
आइए।
तो देंगे नहीं साहब, तुम्हारे घर में घुसकर जो भी है ले जाएंगे। मुझे आके पूछ रहा कि सीबीआई ईडी क्यों नहीं रेड कर रहा उसके यहाँ। मैं बोला आप लोग इन्फॉर्मेशन दीजिए, आप लोग सीबीआई को इन्फॉर्मेशन देते ही नहीं, पैसे क्यों पहुंचाते हैं उनके यहाँ? सीबीआई
सीबीआई
इज सेंट्रल।
दादा, सीबीआई के
जी जी
पास
जी
हमने केस किया हुआ है, और
जी
वो आपको मैं उस केस की थोड़ी ग्लिम्स देता हूँ।
जी जी
भारत की रिक्रूटमेंट, जो बोलना चाहिए, इंडियन एजेंसी बहुत बड़ी, उसमें रिक्रूटमेंट में बहुत बड़ा घोटाला हुआ है।
जी
और सीबीआई ने वो केस पुट भी किया है, किंतु सीबीआई के पास
जी
पूरे एविडेंस प्रॉपर वैलिड होने के बाद भी अश्योरेंस देके वो लॉलीपॉप दे रहे हैं। उनका भी ऐसा रहता है, सीबीआई को सिलेक्टिवली चलता है। तो एफआईआर से पीछे नहीं हट रहे, वो कर नहीं रहे, उसको टांग रखा है, पेंडिंग कर रखा है पूरे।
तो होम मिनिस्ट्री को कॉपी दीजिए ना।
सब सबके पास जा रहे हैं हम लोग तो। होम मिनिस्ट्री पर्सन, आप सोचिए, जब सीबीआई में हम 2 साल तक चप्पल रगड़ सकते हैं तो कहाँ नहीं गए होंगे, संसद के पास
जी
गए
जी
हैं।
जी जी।
तो ठीक है, रिजर्वेंस में लगे हुए हैं, फिर उसको पुट करते जा रहे हैं। और सीबीआई के पास प्रॉपर केस भी होते हैं, एक्सपोज नहीं करती, वो भी देखते हैं कि किसमें प्रॉफिट आएगा किसमें नहीं आएगा। अब उनकी विश्वसनीयता पे भी काफी आक्षेप आरोप आ रहे हैं।
प्रश्न चिन्ह आ रहे हैं।
मैं अभी बैठे बैठे सोच रहा था, अब जनता को एक शो कॉज नोटिस डिलीवर करना आरंभ करना चाहिए, वो एक ये रिवॉल्यूशन अब आना चाहिए। तो मैं स्वयं सोच रहा था कि
To hold
प्रॉपर्ली
the people sitting, to hold people sitting accountable.
wherever the people are sitting, every single city has to organize a rally and they have to put a show cause notice. बस आप जाइए अपना इकट्ठे हुए
और
show
एक
cause
चीज सर,
notice।
थोड़ा ये मीडिया वाले कोऑपरेट करें ना, तो प्रेशर अपने आप बिल्डअप हो जाएगा।
मीडिया से एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करना है। मीडिया वाले तो क्या है कि आप चलिए, वो हाथी चले बाजार, कुत्ते भोंके हजार, वट एवर इसका। तो मीडिया तो क्या है, उनको जहाँ बाइट मिलता है वो आगे निकलेंगे। अन्ना हजारे को बाइट बना के उन्होंने यूज किया था। तो मेरा ये कहना है कि आप जनता को, सभी को इकट्ठे होके अपने जो जो जजेस हैं, वो आईएएस
हाँ, केसेस फाइल करने चाहिए, एक के बाद दूसरा तीसरा। नंबर ऑफ
कोई
केसेस बढ़ता जाएगा तो जुडिशियरी कैन नॉट इग्नोर।
केसेस इन द सेंस डायरेक्ट नोटिस आपको देना चाहिए। देखिए,
नहीं, वो तो देंगे आप, फिर कोर्ट में भी जाना चाहिए कि देखिए साहब, कार्रवाई नहीं हो रही है कुछ, तो फिर एज अ सिटीजन हैव नो राइट्स क्या?
अब जनता को डेटाबेस के साथ में, और इसका ग्राउंड में बताता हूँ जनता को जो सुन रहे हैं, जनता को अपने नगर निवास में जो ज्वलंत समस्याएं हैं, जो काफी समय
जी
समय से पेंडिंग है, जैसे हमारे 1984 की दंगों का आज तक रिजोल्यूशन नहीं निकला। क्यों नहीं निकला? इतना बड़ा नरसंहार हुआ है तो जुडिशरी आज तक कहाँ अंडे दे रही है? तो इसका शो कॉज नोटिस, शो कॉज नोटिस दीजिए। प्लस कश्मीर में इतना बड़ा हत्याकांड हुए हैं, मुपल्लम हत्याकांड हुए हैं, तो इन सबके शो
तो
कॉज
सुप्रीम
नोटिस
कोर्ट,
को
अब
दीजिए।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट बोल दिया कि बहुत पुराना हो गया अभी, ऐसा
व्हाटएवर,
बोल करके।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट डजन, अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपने आप को सुप्रीम समझता तो जनता को सुप्रीमेसी इनकी फिनिश करना पड़ेगी। बोले हम आपको शो कॉज नोटिस दे रहे हैं, आप इस डेट को जनता को शो कॉज नोटिस का आंसर देंगे, उसकी डेट दीजिए, आप दीजिए एनी हाउ, दिस वे दैट वे यू हैव टू गिव एन आंसर। उसमें कोई आपको लीगल मैटर पे नहीं जाना है। एक प्रिंट आउट निकालिए, प्रॉपर हाथ में रखिए, बस जस्ट डिलीवर अ शो कॉज नोटिस टू द पर्सन। रिसीविंग भी नहीं
फेंक
चाहिए।
देगा, वो फेंक
फेंक
देगा
देंगे,
डस्टबिन में से।
ये रिवॉल्यूशन ही ऑटोमेटिकली ग्रो होगा। भूख
ये
हड़ताल
चा-
सब फालतू
नहीं
चीजें
नहीं,
हैं।
ये
आप
चारों
किसी-
तरफ सर्कुलेट होगी तभी कुछ बनेगा ना,
हाँ, तो ये
तभी
रिवॉल्यूशन
बात बनेगी।
आना चाहिए। स्टार्ट करेंगे, एक सिटी स्टार्ट करेगा, सेकंड सिटी और शो कॉज नोटिस में वैलिड में आपको ग्राउंड भी तो दे रहा हूँ ना, क्या है भारत में कितने केस पेंडिंग हैं और ये क्यों पेंडिंग है, कौन सी अय्याशी चल रही है, क्या इनके पास आईक्यू लेवल 0 है क्या, इतने सारे जो अपने जजेस जुडिशरी है जिनको सो कॉल्ड एलिट मोस्ट है, वो क्या क्या उनका नाटक चल रहा है, जलीकट्टू पे बैन लगाएंगे और ये जो होंगे सिलेक्टिविटी, तो उसके लिए शो कॉज नोटिस अब जनता को पुट करना पड़ेगा। Why the hell you guys people are abandoning this particular cases? Why the hell you don't care about the people who are being massacred? You are ignoring massacres, and this why this is the show cause notice, and if you cannot do this then shut the hell up and get lost from this particular, अपनी judiciary घुसाइए, बत्ती बनाइए, निकल जाइए।
निखिल
We
भाई,
are going to
कुल मिला के लेफ्ट का एजेंडा ही इतना ही है
लेफ्ट का
क्या
एजेंडा उस कंट्री को चाहिए,
कि
लेफ्ट का
लोगों को
एजेंडा
सिर्फ
चलेगा जब
कैसे भी
राइट खड़ा
रोड पे
नहीं।
ले आना है, दंगा हो जाए बस।
नहीं, दंगा नहीं होता, देखिए दंगा नहीं, इसको क्या कहते हैं, आप पोलाइट रैली लेकर आइए, प्रॉपर जाइए और एक शो कॉज नोटिस डिलीवर करके आइए। सर आप रिवॉल्यूशन तो स्टार्ट करिए स्लोली स्लोली, तो उनको भी आएगा कि दीस पीपल आर राइजिंग, शो कॉज नोटिस दीजिए और उन्हें संवाद करिए। विवाद नहीं, संवाद से हल होगा। देखिए क्या जज की भी मैं कमजोरी बताता हूँ क्या रहती है। अब आप अगर जज की चेयर पे बैठे हो सर, आप सब जज हैं, ठीक है, इफ देर इज बहुत सिंपल सा फैक्ट है, if you are going to work honest, if you are going to be the honest, who is going to take care of your family and your rest? Point is simple. If you are going to be the honest, is the society going to provide you the security? Are they? जिन
सर
जजेस
उनके
ने
पास तो पैसे नहीं, उनके पास तो पैसे का कोई कमी नहीं है सर। मेरा यदि
मनी
कुछ तो
डजंट
था,
पास, इंदिरा गांधी जी के पास पैसे की कोई कमी थी क्या? रोस्टेड कर दिया ना सर उनको।
देखिए
तो दैट इज द कंसर्न।
इंदिरा गांधी के कर्म थे।
नहीं,
निखिल भाई
कर्म
देखिए,
कर्म अलग, उस आध्यात्म मत जाइए, प्रैक्टिकलिटी में देखिए, क्या राजीव गांधी जी के पास कुछ रुपए की कमी थी क्या? नहीं थी। तो इनकी सिक्योरिटी अगर नहीं है तो ये एक्चुअली क्या होता है, रोल मॉडल बनाए जाते हैं, इनका एग्जाम्पल देके इन्हें ब्लैकमेल किया जाता है। अगर आप ब्लैकमेल नहीं करो तो कम से कम थोड़ा तो इनको लो। तो जजेस भी
सर उनके पास पहुंचेंगे कैसे आप? बिना कोर्ट,
तो
ऐसे तो कोर्ट के अंदर जा नहीं पाओगे बिना केस के।
ये मैं जो पॉइंट बोल रहा हूँ प्रैक्टिकली आप भी अडॉप्ट करेंगे कि हर जज इसीलिए बहुत डिप्लोमेटिक डिसीजन देता है, वो सबको प्रॉपर करता है, सबका साथ सबका विकास सबसे पहले जजेस ने ही आरंभ किया होगा। क्यों?
बात सही है, एकदम सही बोल, एकदम सही बोल।
इफ आई एम बीइंग ऑनेस्ट इट मींस ऑटोमेटिकली एक पर्सन मेरा एनिमी बनने वाला है और जिससे मेरा कहीं तक लेना देना नहीं है। आप अपने आप को उस प्लेस पट के देखिए सर, दो लोग लड़ते हुए आए आपके सामने, ठीक, डेफिनेट सी बात है एक सही होगा एक गलत होगा, ठीक,
जी जी जी,
बट उनमें दोनों में से कौन सही है कौन गलत है उसका डिसीजन तो मैं लूंगा। तो मैंने
कैसे आप लोग सर एविडेंस के ऊपर लोगे ना? अभी हम लोग जो पढ़ रहे थे, अगर एफआईआर रजिस्टर नहीं होगी, एविडेंस प्रोड्यूस नहीं होगा तो कौन क्या करे?
सब कुछ लास्ट स्टेज की बात कर रहा हूँ सर, सब कुछ फाइनल होने के बाद में भी मर्डरर को मर्डरर डिक्लेयर तो मैं करूंगा ना।
जी।
So ultimately, if I am going to declare a murderer on the basis of all evidence, it is practically proven, yes, he is a murderer. Then automatically that person going to be the enemy of me. आप ये कौन सा केस था, मैं आपको सिंपल सा केस बताता हूँ। ये दिल्ली में रेप केस हुआ था, ठीक, उसका जो मेन कल्प्रिट था, जो उसको नाबालिग वाबालिग जो भी वॉटेवर दिया, वो बाकी सबको तो शायद सजा मिली 7 ईयर्स में सर, जुडिशियरी को 7 ईयर से प्लस लग गए ये जरा सा केस सॉल्व करने में। क्या R&D कर रहे थे, क्या क्या कर रहे थे पता नहीं, और जो पर्सन था वो नाबालिग होने का मेन जो मास्टरमाइंड था वो बाहर निकल गया। क्यों? जज कुड हैव गॉन द डिस्टेंस, दे कुड हैव मेड अ प्रॉपर डिसीजन, बट उन्होंने नहीं किया। क्यों? क्योंकि ये पर्सन मेरा एनिमी बनने वाला है। ऐसे बहुत सारे केसेस हैं। अब श्री राम मंदिर निर्णय देख लीजिए, सब कुछ वैलिड है, सब कुछ ठीक है, बट आपने वाई आपने आपको क्या वो बोलना चाहिए कि अपनी बैक बचाने के लिए आपने 5 एकड़ का गिफ्ट दिया टू द पीपल हु मास। क्यों? क्योंकि आपको डर लगता है।
सबका साथ।
हाँ, तो ये ऐसी जो मेंटेलिटी है बहुत सारे केसेस में होता है। आप ये जजेस कानून क्यों जाके अपराधियों की गोद में जाके बैठता है? कहते हैं ना कानून अपराधियों की गोद में जाके क्यों बैठता है? क्योंकि देखो जो हाँ सोसाइटी को ये सीखना है, सोसाइटी जस्टिस लेके उस पर्सन को भूल जाएगी। जजेस नो दैट, एड्रेस दैट। अगर मैंने किसी बेगुनाह, बोलते हैं ना, क्या बेगुनाह वर्ड गलत बोल रहा हूँ, निर्दोष को मैंने अगर बचा लिया तो वो निर्दोष तो न्याय लेके चला जाएगा, ठीक, किंतु जो दोषी है वो मेरे साथ अपना हिसाब बराबर करेगा। तो निर्दोषों की बात कर रहा हूँ, हम सब यहाँ निर्दोष लोग बैठे हैं, हम निर्दोषों की कम्युनिटी को ये करना चाहिए, जो हमको सत्य न्याय देता है उन्हें आश्वासन दीजिए, उन्हें सुरक्षा दीजिए, तब जाके सिस्टम चेंज होगा। शो कॉज नोटिस दीजिए, उन्हें बताइए, कॉन्फिडेंस में लीजिए। अगर आप कोई सत्य निर्णय लेते हैं तो हम आपके साथ हैं। दोषियों की तो टोली होती है।
निखिल भाई, ये टू वे कम्युनिकेशन होता है, ठीक है। म्यूचुअल जो है, कोई भी चीज होती है म्यूचुअल होती है। अगर मुझे ही प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिलेगी, ठीक है, तो मैं तुमको कहाँ से दूंगा? दिस गोज फॉर जजेस बट दिस गोज फॉर पब्लिक एज वेल।
सर पब्लिक
वाइस वर्सा केस है
वो एक ठीक है, पर सर एक चिकन फॉर्म भी होता है, तो वहां शांति से चिकन बैठे हैं तब तक ठीक है, उन्हें पता नहीं लग रहा है। बट हम लोग कंडीशंस क्या है कि अब हम बहुत अवेकनिंग कंडीशंस में हमको डिक्लेयर करना पड़ेगा। सपोज अभी आज प्रैक्टिकली आपके सामने है, पंडित श्री धीरेन्द्र कृष्ण शास्त्री के विरुद्ध कौन सा षड्यंत्र हुआ था। बहुत हुए, ऐसा छोटे मोटे नहीं हुए, बंदा बहुत एक वायरस जैसे निकले बहुत बड़ा, कि उन्होंने ट्रायम्फ किया है, सबको डिफीट करके आज वो जो पर्सन इंग्लैंड जैसी सुपर मोस्ट इनसिक्योर प्लेस पे क्या करके आ रहे हैं, आप ये नोटिस करिए। वर्ल्ड की सबसे डेंजरस स्पॉट्स हैं यूके, यूएसए, वहां पर जाकर
कोई तो पीछे, उनका भी कोई पीछे तो होगा ही।
उनके पीछे जो बजरंग बली जी तो है, ये बात जनता को भी जानना चाहेगी। वो भी सिर पर, उन्होंने भी मुंह पे कहा कि मैं भी सिर पर मृत्यु लेकर चला हूं। जब मृत्यु लेकर चलने का तात्पर्य ये होता है, समाज को जब संयुक्त रूप से मृत्यु साथ में लेके चलते हैं तो आपके सामने जो विरोधी होते हैं भागते फिरते हैं। मैं ये पॉइंट बता रहा हूँ।
निखिल भाई, पता है क्या, आप जिसकी प्रोटेक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, वो ऑलरेडी वो दूध पीता बच्चा नहीं है, ठीक है। कॉलेजियम को वो भी जो है जी भर के जो है उसको रोक रहे हैं कि नहीं नहीं हमारे ही होना चाहिए, हमारे ही होना चाहिए। कई ऐसे जजेस हैं जिन्होंने बिना ये सोचे हुए भी डिसीजंस दिए हैं कि होगा क्या आगे, वो भी सही सलामत है। ऐसा नहीं है कि जो है सब पे अटैक्स हो गए, एक आध पे कभी हो गया होगा, मान भी सकता हूँ मैं।
निष्पक्ष निर्णय मिला नहीं है। आप मुझे कोई केस बताइए जिसमें ऐसा बिल्कुल डोमिनेटिंग निर्दोष के पक्ष में निर्णय गया हो, और तब गया होगा जब जो दोषी पक्ष हो निर्बल हो चुका हो, अन्यथा नास्ती।
हाँ, ये बात है।
बहुत सर ऑडिटिंग करके बात कर रहे हैं कि
लेकिन सर ये शो कॉज जो आप बता रहे हैं कि मान लीजिए आप बाय पोस्ट भेजिएगा उनको, जज को।
सर इसके लिए वेज ऐसे होना चाहिए, आप सभी इकट्ठे हुए सर वहाँ रिसीविंग के लिए। वो क्या है, जब तक रिसीविंग हमको प्राप्त नहीं होती ना तब तक वो क्या गुलाम होते कि आपको पत्र प्राप्त नहीं हुआ, देन यू हैव टू टेक देम फॉर टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड, दैट्स इट। सर ये
दीजिएगा कैसे सर, द मोड ऑफ सर्विंग दैट
बहुत होता है सर। वो गांधी जी ने भी सत्याग्रह ली थी ना।
फिर कोर्ट के सामने बैठना पड़ेगा ना।
कोई आप एक सिंपल प्रिंट आउट ले जाइए ब्लैंक पेपर में, जैसा लिखा रहता है ना, क्या बोलते हैं उस पे,
हमें कहाँ डालिएगा वो अंदर, ये बड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, कहाँ डालिएगा? कहीं गेट्स हैं
सर, बहुत सिंपल है, बहुत सिंपल है। आप इसमें क्या है आपको देखिए ये बताना,
मामूली पिटीशन दाखिल करने में
सर
हमको तो प्रॉब्लम होती है हाई कोर्ट में।
एम सर, आप भूल भुलैया में जा रहे हो, लीगल ग्राउंड पे जा रहे हो। मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, जनता को अब लीगल ग्राउंड से बोर हो चुके हैं। शोकॉज नोटिस
जज के पास जाना ही क्यों? फिर जज के पास जाना ही क्यों?
एम सर, सभी के पास, जितने जो एलिट होते हैं, आप कलेक्टर ऑफिस आप
हाँ,
ये
उनको दे
एसपी
सकते हैं।
ऑफिस में दीजिए, सब ऑफिस में दीजिए कि सर इतनी समस्याएं जो आपकी पेंडिंग, इनके
सर
निराकरण नहीं हो रहा।
सर ऑफिस वाले लेंगे ही नहीं ना,
मत
आपका
दीजिए,
वो कागज
आप
लेंगे ही नहीं।
मत दीजिए, आप जाइए इकट्ठे हुई ऑटोमेटिक दीजिए, आप 10 नगरों में तो करिए और ये रिवॉल्यूशन बन
लेकिन
जाएगा सर।
ये सब बाहर आना चाहिए ना, ये पेपर
बिल्कुल
न्यूज़पेपर में रिफ्लेक्ट होगा।
ऑटोमेटिक आएगा
न्यूज़
सर, ऑटोमेटिक आएगा। मैंने बोला मीडिया के पीछे भागने की आपको आवश्यकता नहीं है, मीडिया स्वयं आपके पीछे भागेगा। व्हाट द
वो
हेल
तो
इट इज
डेली तो कैमरा लेकर के वहाँ खड़े ही रहते हैं लोग, ट्राइपॉड सुबह
बस
7 बजे से वहाँ लगा हुआ रहता है।
बड़ा शांति से जाइए सर, जैसे पोस्टमैन आपको वो कुरियर फेंक के जाता है, आप शांति से सब जाइए रैली से पैदल चलते हुए, सर ये नोटिस है, ये आपका काम है, लो चपरासी को दो, कुछ को दो, ट्राई टू रीच द।
लेगा ही नहीं कोई ना
मत
सर,
लो,
यही तो
मत
मैं
लो, कौन चाह रहा है? दैट इज द थिंग व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन। यस, वी आर नॉट द स्लेव फॉर योर व्हाट से एलिटिज्म। द कम्युनिटी इज गिविंग यू अ मैसेज। ऊधम सिंह का आज दिवस है, इसीलिए मैं उनके परिप्रेक्ष्य में डायरेक्ट बात कर रहा हूँ।
जी।
जलियांवाला बाग का जो कल्प्रिट था, मेरे घर के व्यक्तियों को जिसने किया है, डायर साहब, आपके डायर के अगेंस्ट अगर ऊधम सिंह केस लड़ने जाता तो हो जाता काम। इसीलिए उन्होंने सीधे शो कॉज नोटिस दिया, इफ यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू एग्जीक्यूट प्रॉपर एक्शंस देन आई एम एबल टू डू माय ओन एक्शंस, कर्मा। The society will give the direct message, enough is enough। कश्मीर में हो गया, सहन कर लिया, बंगाल में चोचला हो रहा है, अरुणाचल में चोचले हो रहे हैं,
अभी भी चल रही है,
केरला में हो रहा है, और तुम साले हो कितने केस है? अरे करोड़ों केस पेंडिंग लेके बैठे हो तुम साले हो, क्या बोलते हैं?
ये
दो
जो
महीने
मैं इंसिडेंट बताया ना सर, ये इंसिडेंट जो मैं बताया ना, इसका रिफ्लेक्शन है, ये चल रही है ना। लोग
हाँ
डेली देख रहे हैं, बोर हो गया, बर्दाश्त के बाहर हो गया, अब तो पकड़ के पीटने
सर,
लगेगा ना।
विथ ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट सर, मैं रिस्पेक्टफुली इसलिए मैंने आपके सर, आपने जो भी कहा ना, कोई लेगा नहीं लेगा, मत लेने दो, इनफ 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 इज इनफ। उधम
पीटने
सिंह आत्मा
लगेगा।
लेके चले, ये हमने इंटीमेशन दे दिया, दैट्स इट। इफ यू आर एबल टू डू द जॉब देन डू इट, अदरवाइज यू डोंट इवन नीड योर ब्ला 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 कॉलोनिज्म की पूंगी बजाते रहो भाई। कौन भाव दे रहा तुमको? कौन भाव देगा? तुम कितने भाव देते भाई? तुम कितना अच्छा, तुम्हारा जो एलिट सिस्टम है कितना है? भारतीय गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज में कितने 2 करोड़ लोग हैं टोटल, एंटायर गवर्नमेंट में 2 करोड़ लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट से ज्यादा थोड़ी दे रहे हो आप लोग, सब मिला लो उसमें। ये 2 करोड़ लोग ही भगवान हो गए क्या? और आप तुम लोग ऐसा ऐसा ड्रिवन करते हो कि करोड़ों लोग मरते जा रहे हैं, तुम 2 करोड़।
जैसे प्रदीप भाई बोल रहे हैं ना, कुछ जजेस हैं जो करना चाहते हैं, अच्छा करते भी है, तो ऊपर से जो है मतलब दूसरे डिवीजन बेंच, सिंगल बेंच को ओवर रूल कर देता है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाता है तो
लेकिन भाई मैं वही समझाना
अच्छे
चाह रहा हूँ,
लोगों को काम करने नहीं देंगे, यही मतलब सिस्टम ही ऐसा बना रखा है।
एक सेक्शन डोमिनेट कर रहा है, जो करना चाहते हैं, जो कर भी रहे हैं, उनको करने नहीं दिया जा रहा। बहुत अच्छे अच्छे जज हैं,
ये तो हम लोग
ऐसा
देख रहे
नहीं
हैं।
है।
तो
और मेरिट पे आएंगे, अच्छे अच्छे लोग निकल के आएंगे अभी।
एक शोकॉज नोटिस डिलीवर हो भी चुका है, आज शायद न्यूज भी आप आ चुकी है, मैंने सुना है, आपको भी पता होगा। थोड़ी प्रसन्नता के साथ एक न्यूज और, आज एम सर ने एक अच्छी न्यूज सुनाई, वो शोकॉज नोटिस ही है सर, एम सर जो आपने न्यूज सुनाई है।
जी जी जी।
सोशल शोकॉज नोटिस डायरेक्ट सेकंड, एक शोकॉज नोटिस आपका मैंने सुना है, आप लोग ही बता देंगे, योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने दे दिया है कुछ
जी।
प्रदीप जी, सुना कि नहीं?
हाँ हाँ, सुने।
हाँ मैं सुना है, वो देख रहा हूँ न्यूज, कहाँ है
ये मैं बताता हूँ, आज हमारे जो मूवमेंट का, हम जो दुखद मूवमेंट है, जो टॉपिक पूरा कंटिन्यू कवरेज कर रहे हैं, जो खालिस्तान मूवमेंट का है, हमारे साथ हमारे घर में इतना बड़ा षड्यंत्र हुआ, किया गया, उसका कल्प्रिट साला सीएम कैसे बना?
सीएम बना, प्रेसिडेंट बना, बाकी मिनिस्टर थे वो भी इन्वॉल्व थे, सब सारे पूरा इनका पूरा क्या बोलूं मैं, पूरा टीम था रेडी। अच्छा कैसे हवा
आयरनी देखो, इतना कांग्रेस का लोग तारीफ करते हैं, ठीक है,
हमारे निर्दोषता का कब तक लाभ उठाओ? अभी पोलाइट है, हम भी कोई शोकास नोटिस में ऐसा कोई दे नहीं रहे कि सिंपल बता रहे सर आप समझो, try to learn the predicament what is happening around you, otherwise it is going to become the Afghanistan। every person has to leave and depart this particular place in the plane. छत पे बैठ के भागना पड़ा लोगों को प्लेन की. Do you want that happening that at your own home? आप क्या सोचते हो दिल्ली सेफ है नहीं सेफ है, लंदन सेफ है
नहीं
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 safe?
नहीं, एकदम
वही
नहीं.
safe. One day, one place you have to make it secure. That is only possible in India. भारत का नाम तो अभी नहीं लूंगा. इंडिया में ही पॉसिबिलिटी है सर आपके कॉलोनिज्म की. फ्रांस,
मैंने भारत का ही नाम लीजिए, क्योंकि इंडिया का भी दूसरा कॉनोटेशन आ गया.
वो इंडिया में ना सार्कास्टिकली यूज किया, उस नाम का रियल मीनिंग समझता हूँ, आप भी समझते हैं. भारत बहुत अलग चीज है. योगी जी ने कुछ कहा है और वो सत्य है. अब वो भी मतलब योगी जी भी क्या बॉयल होकर सही फिर आ ही जाते हैं, वो भी उनके अंदर का
अरे
जागृत.
हमारे यहाँ जज साहब बोले कि योगी जी का मेथड जो अडॉप्ट करना हो, उस पर भी लोग जो बिगड़ गए. हाई कोर्ट के जज साहब बोले कि लगता है कि योगी जी का मेथड जो है, ये कैलकाटा म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन को एक नोटिस दिया गया था डेमोलिशन का, उन्होंने नहीं किया. ठीक है, कंटेम्प्ट फाइल कर सकते हैं. कोई कोर्ट का ऑर्डर यदि कोई डिपार्टमेंट नहीं मान रहा हो तो कंटेम्प्ट पिटीशन फाइल कर सकते हैं. उनके सामने जब ये मैटर आया तो बोले योगी जी का मेथड मुझे अडॉप्ट करना पड़ेगा लग रहा है.
सर आप देखिए अब कॉमेडी सर, एम सर,
जैसे ही वो बोले बस.
हाईकोर्ट का ऑर्डर अगर आपके हाथ में है, हाईकोर्ट का ऑर्डर अगर आपके हाथ में है तो क्या एक्शन होगा सर?
निखिल भाई पता है क्या,
रुको ना
दुनिया
प्रदीप,
जो हम
सुनो ना बात, तो क्वेश्चन तो समझो. हाईकोर्ट का ऑर्डर आपके हाथ में प्रदीप जी, तो क्या एक्शन होगा उस चीज पर?
अच्छा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाता है तो वापस हाई कोर्ट भेज देता है. हाई कोर्ट किस लिए, आप लोग यहाँ क्यों आते हैं? तो आप क्या ऊपर नीचे भागते रहिएगा और पैसा बर्बाद करते रहिएगा?
हाँ, पूछो ना, मैं क्वेश्चन बता रहा हूँ. आपने जो क्वेश्चन रेज
इसीलिए
किया,
मैं
हाई कोर्ट का ऑर्डर होने के पश्चात भी क्या एक्शन होगा?
नहीं, इसका तो कोई गारंटी नहीं.
हाँ, अब हो गई कॉमेडी. अब मैं कॉमेडी बताता हूँ प्रदीप जी. देखिए, यहाँ मेरे नगर में किसी पर्टिकुलर ध्वनि विस्तारक यंत्र के विरुद्ध सोसाइटी के पास एक पॉजिटिव हाईकोर्ट ऑर्डर है, किंतु हाईकोर्ट ऑर्डर हाथ में होने के पश्चात भी वो ध्वनि विस्तारक यंत्रों को हटाया नहीं जा रहा है, ना ही उतारा जा रहा, ना ही वॉल्यूम कम किया आज तक, और ये बहुत चल रहा है. अब आप समझ जाइए मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ कि जज को भी समझना चाहिए क्या है. वो जितना जज बनते ना, मी लॉर्ड वॉटेवर, उनकी रियलिटी क्या है. आपके ऑर्डर पे डॉगी भी सुसु नहीं कर रहा है, तो हम लेके बैठे आपके ऑर्डर. अब क्या क्या वैल्यू हुई? आर्मी फोर्स सब कुछ है, आप केवल एक लाउड स्पीकर है जो पब्लिक कम्युनिटी परेशान हो रही है, उसके वो जीत के आए हैं केस, और यहाँ पे पुट करने के बाद भी नथिंग इज हैपनिंग. सो प्रदीप जी अब देखिए क्या कर लेंगे हम. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑर्डर भी ले आएंगे तो भी क्या होगा? अगर कोई करने वाला नहीं है, अगर आपको विल पावर ही नहीं है, जो आपकी फोर्सेस हैं, तो फिर वो चीज चलती रहेगी.
तो रास्ता क्या है?
शो कॉज नोटिस उधम सिंह जी, एम सर ने आज बता दिया, एक शो कॉज नोटिस.
समझ गया.
वो आप प्रदीप जी एक्सेप्ट करो ना करे, पर्टिकुलर पर्सन तो शो कॉज नोटिस पे काम कर रहा है ना. यू आर ट्राइंग टू लर्न दैट फ्रॉम टुडे. मैंने आपको क्या समझाया
ठीक
फिर
है,
से?
देखिए हर
हाईकोर्ट
टाइम
ऑर्डर, प्रदीप जी हाईकोर्ट ऑर्डर हाथ में, आपके हाथ में जजमेंट है, डिसीजन है, आपका सब कुछ है. उसके बाद भी आप खड़े नहीं हो सकते, बोल नहीं सकते, जा रहे हो, फिर दौड़ रहे हो, फिर आपने क्या बोलते हैं डिप्रेस हो गए, निकल लिए. दैट इज व्हाट द रियलिटी अबाउट द हाईकोर्ट ऑर्डर. सो सॉल्यूशन सोसाइटी के पास क्या रहता है? तो सोसाइटी शो कॉज नोटिस किस लिए देगी? वो इसलिए देगी कि सर अब तो सीखो, अब तो सुधरो. योगी जी ने आपको एक नोटिस दिया है, मैं आपको कहना नहीं चाहता, शायद ऐसा चल रहा है नैरेटिव कि वो मैं आपको बोलता हूँ उसके बारे में. योगी जी ने भी शो कॉज नोटिस दिया है कि अगर अब ज्ञानवापी को मस्जिद कहा गया तो बात बिगड़ेगी. मंदिर है, मंदिर था, मंदिर रहेगा. थोड़े दिन के लिए गड़बड़ हुई थी, ये शो कॉज नोटिस है. इनफ इज इनफ.
जी जी।
अब देखिए कुल मिला के कितने आप जजमेंट्स देख लो, अजीब अजीब से तरीके के आते हैं, ठीक है। आपने शो कॉज नोटिस एक चीज बता दी, दूसरी चीज देखो कि आपको एक वर्ज पे पहुंचाया जाएगा कि या तो तुम जो है हमारे हिसाब से, इससे पहले मैं, या तो तुम हमारे हिसाब से चलो और या तो फिर तुम रोड पे उतरो, यानी जो लेफ्ट चाहता है रोड पे ही आए पब्लिक, या तो वही हो या फिर हमारे हिसाब से चलते रहो, ठीक है। सेम चीज मैं एक एग्जांपल के साथ समझाता हूँ। आप एक घर के हेड हैं, ठीक है, 4 लोग हैं, उसमें से एक आपकी बात मानता ही नहीं, आपसे लड़ने को भी तैयार है, आपको मारने को भी तैयार है, तो आप क्या करते हो कि आपके पास आ गया, नहीं ऐसी ऐसी बात है, तो आप क्या कहते हो, अरे छोड़ यार, वो ले रहा है तो ले ही लेने दे, ठीक है, क्योंकि आपको मालूम वो तो आपकी बात मानेगा ही नहीं, तो आप क्या करोगे, जो मानता चल गया इसी को दबा लो,
अन्य तो मार कर भगा दो उसको,
ठीक है। सेम चीज यहाँ हो रहा है। हम जो सिविलाइज वर्ल्ड देखते हैं ना दादा, वो सिविलाइज्ड वर्ल्ड वैसा ही है जैसा एक जंगल होता है।
प्रदीप स्ट्रीम बंद कर देते हैं, फिर करते रहो तुम इसको शो कर देना।
हाँ, उस वाले पे एक बात करनी है जो 1984 वाला है। 1984 वाले पे ये बात करनी, मैं इसको लेके जाना चाहता था कई बार, लेकिन बात ये वाली चल रही थी, इस वजह से ले नहीं जा पाया। 1984 इंदिरा गांधी का एसिसिनेशन, ठीक है, और बदले में क्या, कांग्रेस का रिटेलिएशन अगेंस्ट सिक्स इन द गार्ब ऑफ, या इन द इन द स्किन ऑफ हिंदूज। करना खुद है, नाम हिंदू का लगाना है, ठीक है। और इनके कर्मों का परिणाम देखो कि एक की लाश पे चढ़ के दूसरा आता है, ठीक है। इंदिरा गांधी की लाश पे चढ़ के राजीव गांधी आया, वो आपको मालूम है ना, वो बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है तो धरती थोड़ी सी हिलती है,
थोड़ी सी।
और इंदिरा राजीव गांधी की लाश पे चढ़ के सोनिया इनडायरेक्टली आती है, जो भी है, लेकिन ऐसे ही है ये। इतनी गंदी पार्टी है, लोग अपने लोगों का पहले अंतिम संस्कार करते हैं, बाद में कोई चीज सोचते हैं, ये पहले कोई और चीज सोचते हैं, बाद में अंतिम संस्कार करते हैं। संजय गांधी मरता है तो सबसे पहले चाबी याद आती, चाबी किधर है, पता नहीं कौन सी चाबी थी जो इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट थी। माँ के लिए बेटा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, ठीक है, ये ऐसे ही है। तो पब्लिक को ये समझना चाहिए यार, जो लाशों पे चढ़ के आए हैं, बताते देश के लिए मरे, अरे वो देश के लिए तुम मरे कहाँ से हो, प्रॉब्लम तुमने खड़ी की, उसकी चपेट में आ गए। उसके पास कहते ना, अभी निखिल भाई कहते सिक्योरिटी बहुत है, यार कर्म आपके, कुकर्म जो है आप पे भारी पड़ जाए तो सिक्योरिटी क्या कर लेगी, ठीक है ना दादा, बीबी दादा, एम दादा।
जी बोल दी।
चलो बंद करते हैं,
यही है,
2 घंटे 8 मिनट
ठीक
हो
है
गया।
दादा। और कोई कमेंट देना चाहता, तेजवीर भाई, रावण दादा, तो फिर लेके फाइनल कमेंट इसके रिगार्डिंग।
नहीं, क्लोज कर दीजिए।
ठीक है, रावण दादा कोई कमेंट देना है, फिर मैं फाइनली इसको रैप अप कर देता हूँ। ठीक है, रावण दादा बिजी लग रहे हैं, तो ठीक है, तो हम इसी के साथ समापन की ओर चलते हैं। हमारे जो भी दर्शक हैं, जो हमें समय दे रहे हैं, उनके समय के लिए धन्यवाद, जो फ्यूचर में देखेंगे उनका एडवांस में धन्यवाद। और इसी के साथ हम इसका समापन करते हैं, अगली प्रस्तुति के साथ पुनः उपस्थित होंगे आपके सम्मुख। और इसी के साथ धन्यवाद, जय हिंद, वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय।
जी,
चैनल को लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब जरूर कीजिए और शेयर भी कीजिए। जय हिंद, वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय।
वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय।